Chapter 447. The atmosphere in the sky-dazzling stage was especially weird. Gasps could be heard from the crowd one after another. The gazes they shot at Chu Hen were changing incessantly. They went from astonishment, disbelief, fear, and deep reverence. He'd killed Meng Hong, crippled Hu Tong, and even stomped on Kong Bin and beat him like a dead dog. Just thinking about such a scene caused their scalps to go numb and their palms to break out in cold sweat. No wonder the top three of the Hall disciples hadn't appeared until now. All of them had fallen at Chu Hen's hands. Guanli, who was ranked fourth among the Hall disciples, glanced at Chu Hen, who was still standing by the stone pillar, with lingering fear in his eyes. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and sighed softly. Fortunately, those people had arrived in time. Otherwise, no one knew what would have happened later. At that very moment, the crowd was no longer simply afraid of Chu Hen. The palpitation in their hearts rose in a straight line. He'd created the highest record in the history of the Thousand Crane sect, and such an achievement completely surpassed the leader of the core disciples, Wu Yuan. Swoosh! Suddenly, a few piercingly cold rays of light shot towards the center of the platform. Along with a powerful wave of qi, a few calm and reserved middle-aged figures flashed into the central area of the heaven-dazzling platform. Everyone was slightly shocked, and they shot their gazes over. The person in the lead was a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 30s, and he had a goatee. "It's Elder Hua!" An exclamation resounded from the crowd. Elder Hua's sharp gaze swept through the crowd, and then a hint of surprise could be seen on his face. There was no need to guess to know that the other party was most likely surprised that Kong Bin, Hu Tong, Meng Hong, and the others had yet to appear. A young man asked, "Elder Hua, can we begin the registration?" Elder Hua hesitated for a moment before he nodded and withdrew a golden book. "Now, I will announce that the registration of the Hall disciples will begin immediately. The number of jade lots in your hands will be your ranking among the Hall disciples. Those who do not have a jade lot in their hands will drop 10 places from their original ranking. If you drop out of the top 70, you will be directly demoted to an inner court disciple." Elder Hua finished his words indifferently. "I'll be demoted if I'm ranked below the 70th place?" Chu Hen was slightly flabbergasted. If that was the case, then the 81-foot ranking that he had obtained before was not even at the bottom of the palace disciples. It seemed likely Nanhai and GC had made the right choice. With their strength, they would only be participating in the last round of the test. Elder Hua did not waste any time and opened the golden book in his hand. "Let's start the registration now. Come forward and report your name. Hand me the jade pendant." Everyone was extremely excited. Many people had an expression of anticipation on their faces. Even so, the crowd did not have any intention of rushing forward. One by one, they cast their gazes towards Chu Hen's location. Since this new Hall disciple didn't speak, they looked at him. Seeing that, Elder Hua and the others revealed puzzled expressions, and they also cast puzzled gazes towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen smiled, but did not say much. He took the lead and walked toward the center of the heaven-dazzling platform. Chu Hen, 2 simple words. His handsome face was neither servile nor overbearing. Then, he handed over his jade slip. Elder Hua's emotions did not fluctuate too much. He casually took the jade slip from Chu Hen's hand. However, when he saw the number on the jade slip, he was immediately dumbfounded. Even the arm that was holding the golden book couldn't help but tremble. Then, he suddenly raised his head and looked at Chu Hen with a face full of shock. The higher-ups of the Thousand Crane sect who stood behind Elder Hua exchanged glances. What was going on? How could the usually calm Elder Hua lose his composure like this? Soon after, their gazes fell on the jade lot one after another. Then, everyone in front of Chu Hen widened their eyes. How is this possible? Kong Bin lost. Say it again, what's your name? Chu Hen found it hard to adapt to the way everyone looked at him, as if he was a monster. His voice was clear and steady as he repeated, "Chu Hen." Swoosh! Elder Hua and the others were astounded once more. When they saw the reactions of the others in the surroundings, they instantly understood why they'd been waiting for Chu Hen to make the first move. Looks like something unexpected has occurred during the underground rankings competition. The young really are worthy of respect. Rumble. Suddenly, right when Elder Hua was about to register his name, a violent gale suddenly arose, thunder rumbled, dark clouds surged, the mountains trembled, and the sky brilliance platform beneath their feet started to shake with unease. What's going on? Everyone's expressions changed, and they revealed shock on their faces. Wham! Whoosh! In the next instant, the clouds and the surroundings dimmed, and the world dimmed. The ferocious and surging, terrifying aura was like a flood that had opened the floodgates, attacking everyone from all directions. Along with waves of thunderous, storm-like air waves and trembling sounds, over a dozen colorful bright light pillars whizzed over from all directions. The gorgeous pillars of light carried dense, destructive energy, and they were like meteors that were descending from the heavens. The extraordinary, imposing aura they emanated crushed down towards the sky brilliance platform. Elder Hua's expression changed violently, and he shouted in a grim voice, "Everyone disperse! Disperse!" All the disciples of the Thousand Cranes sect turned pale with fright. Formidable auras erupted from within them as swiftly as they could, and a few dozen of them instantly seemed like a rain of fireworks as they retreated swiftly. However, in the next instant, those dazzling pillars of light that emanated shocking, imposing auras smashed against the sky brilliance platform like a meteor shower. Boom! An extremely violent explosion instantly exploded through the heavens and the earth. It was earth-shattering and shook the sky. A especially ferocious and destructive force smashed down. The majestic and imposing sky brilliance platform was like a mountain that had been blasted apart, and it was instantly blasted to the point of collapsing. Dust and smoke surged while rocks shot into the surroundings. The multicolored markings caused violent waves of energy to sweep through the heavens and the earth. Many disciples of the Thousand Cranes sect who were comparatively slower to react felt as if they'd been struck by a mountain, and their vital blood surged while their internal organs shifted, causing them to spit out mouthfuls of blood. Rumble. Before everyone could stabilize their minds from this sudden and shocking change, they saw a dark tide surging in the sky, darkening the sky and enveloping the surroundings. After that, over a dozen black-clothed figures that emanated a bloodthirsty and violent aura appeared from within the dark clouds. Ha ha! Brothers and sisters of the Thousand Cranes sect, I've accidentally disturbed your test here. Arrogant and roaring laughter resounded through the surroundings, and it was extremely ear-piercing. The expressions of the members of the Thousand Cranes sect changed drastically, and they revealed dense shock and rage. It's the bastards from the Azura sect. What are they doing here? Are all of you surprised? A robust black, clothed figure glanced down at them from above, and his voice was filled with disdain. Absolute Blade, Lang Li. Elder Hua frowned while an icy, cold glow surged through his eyes. On the other hand, Chu Hen's eyes couldn't help but narrow. The person who spoke just now was the leader of the group from the Azura sect that he'd encountered on Myriad Beast Ridge, one of the 7 ultimate geniuses, the Absolute Blade, Lang Li. However, besides Lang Li, there was another young man with a gloomy and cold aura that made the members of the Thousand Cranes sect feel infuriated. That young man stood by Lang Li's side, and the bloodthirsty and violent aura he emanated wasn't inferior to Lang Li at all. He revealed a mouthful of ghastly white teeth as he gazed at them with a strange smile on his face. It seems like I've seen many faces in the past. Everyone, do you still remember me, Tui? The expressions of the members of the Thousand Crane sect changed repeatedly. Just like Lang Li, Tui was a core disciple of the Azura sect. He was extremely scheming, ruthless, cruel, and ruthless. He was even more ruthless than Lang Li. During the times when the Thousand Crane sect and Azura sect were at war, countless disciples of the Thousand Crane sect had perished at Tuye's hands. At this moment, their eyes could be said to be filled with extreme hatred when they met their enemies. However, they were puzzled by the fact that the members of the Azura sect were here. Could it be that they received news that the disciples of the Thousand Crane sect were taking the test here, so they came to ambush us? However, all of them were Hall disciples of the Thousand Crane sect, and every single one of them possessed extraordinary combat strength. They didn't reveal any fear when facing these geniuses of the Azure sect. Hee. Tui glanced at the scarlet-red gazes in the surroundings, and then he revealed an evil smile and said, "For the sake of congratulating all of you for ascending to the ranks of the Hall disciples, we've brought a huge gift for all of you. Please accept it." Ha ha. A huge gift? What kind of gift? Roar. Owl. He'd merely just finished speaking when a wave of monstrous roars of demon beasts assaulted them from afar. The ground trembled while the rivers surged. In the depths of Mount Mang, a vast expanse of dark clouds surged over like a torrent. When one focused their gaze and looked over, one would notice that the dark clouds were actually numerous ferocious and formidable demon beasts. There were a few hundred demon beasts, and most of them were at the Beast King realm. The demon beasts toppled trees and trampled through the forest as they swiftly charged over. Shit, it's a beast pack. Damn it. All of you bastards actually drew a beast pack over. The ferocious beast pack instantly arrived before them. There were enormous beasts that were over 100 meters tall, evil flying beasts with wings on their backs, ferocious beasts with the bodies of tigers and leopards, ferocious beasts with mouths full of sharp teeth. Even the weakest amongst them was a 7th-grade spirit beast. The eyes of these terrifying demon beasts flickered with a bloodthirsty glow. It was like their minds had been controlled by someone, and they'd lost all reason as they launched ferocious attacks at the members of the Thousand Crane sect. Ha ha! Tu Yi, Lang Li, and the others from the Azura sect roared with complacent laughter. Chapter 448. This was specially prepared for all of you. Enjoy it. Ha ha! Tu Yi, Lang Li, and the other geniuses of the Azura sect roared with laughter with extreme complacency. Roar! Roar! Along with shocking roars, a few hundred demon beasts charged over, and then they pounced towards the members of the Thousand Crane sect like a torrent. Ferocious energy surged into the sky, and their roars shook the sky. Ghastly and violent waves of energy surged like a violent tsunami, and they overturned mountains as they smashed down. Damn it! Elder Hua cursed while his eyes flickered with a cold glow of rage. However, he had no choice but to order the members of the Thousand Crane sect to meet the attack head-on. Kill. In an instant, a few dozen disciples from the Hall emanated fierce and powerful auras, and they charged and fought the furious demon beasts. The change of events had truly been too sudden. It was to the point that they still hadn't recovered from their shock. Fortunately, all of them were elites amongst the disciples of the Thousand Crane sect, and practically every single one of them possessed extraordinary ability and natural talent. Even though they weren't able to instantly gain a foothold, they weren't instantly thrown into chaos by the situation before them. However, it was exactly because they were the pillars of the Thousand Crane sect. Once too many of these Hall disciples died, then it would be an immeasurable loss to the entire sect. Kill. Let's slaughter these bastards first, then kill those bastards from Ashura sect. All of them were infuriated, and they executed ferocious attack after ferocious attack. Multicolored rays of light shot forward like divine rays of light, and they ceaselessly smashed against the enormous demon beasts. Bang! A Hall disciple swung his sword swiftly and severed the head of a violent bear beast. His gaze was ghastly as he shouted coldly, "Why aren't these animals attacking those bastards from the Azura sect? They're being controlled." The one who spoke was a young lady who was holding onto a long whip. With a swing of her wrist, the long whip in her hand shot out like a soaring dragon. The 1,000-mile whip had an astonishing aura as it rose and directly pierced through the chest of a giant eagle demonic beast. That's the Azura sect's heart control technique. It's capable of causing humans or demon beasts to lose their consciousness for a certain period of time and accept their orders. I see. That's nothing. Those bastards even controlled the members of our Thousand Crane sect in the past and made us kill each other. All of you newcomers are utterly unable to imagine the pain we felt when we stabbed our own companions' throats with our own hands. A Hall disciple's eyes involuntarily turned blood red as he spoke. A thick sense of hatred emanated from him. This group of savage bastards kill. The charge of the demon beast was suppressed under the forceful counterattack of the members of the Thousand Crane sect. But at the same time, many of the disciples from the Hall of Gods suffered injuries of varying severity. There were even a few disciples with relatively weaker cultivations who died miserably in the mouths of the demonic beasts. Battles with demonic beasts were always cruel and bloody. High up in the sky, the group from Azura's sect watched the chaotic and intense battle before them, as if they were watching a show. Hee. Lang Li smiled complacently, and then he said to Tu-Yi, senior brother Tu-Yi, those brothers from the Thousand Crane sect seem to be unable to hold on for much longer. Why don't we go over and help them? Tu-Yi laughed cunningly as well, and then he spoke with a teasing tone. Junior brother Lang Li is right. Then let's help them. Attack. Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, over a dozen geniuses of the Azura sect flew down, and all of them erupted with a cruel, bloodthirsty, and violent aura. Swoosh! Lang Li's palm moved, and then a narrow and long curved blade appeared in his grasp. The curved blade was extremely sharp, and it was shaped like a crescent moon. Moreover, dense blood-red light surged and flickered on its blade. Hee. Little bastard from the Thousand Crane sect, I'm coming. Lang Li's eyes revealed a ferocious glow, and his formidable aura made him seem like a wolf that had struggled free of its cage. He slashed with a backhand slash, and a blood-red ray of light tore through the air and slashed a disciple from the Thousand Crane sect into two. Bastard! Another disciple from the Thousand Crane sect was unable to restrain his rage. He raised a sword and stabbed it at Lang Li. His gorgeous sword energy transformed into circle after circle of flowing markings that coiled around his sword, and the powerful aura of his sword pressed down upon Lang Li like a mountain. Ha! Lang Li laughed coldly, while dense disdain appeared on his face. Even a nobody dares to act rashly before me. O.M. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Lang Li slashed a few times in succession, and numerous red rays of light shot out like a rising tide. They covered the heavens and the earth as they assaulted the young man with the sword. Everyone knew how formidable Lang Li was. He was ranked at the second amongst the 7 ultimate geniuses. Boom! Numerous rays of light slashed over in succession, and then the sword energy in front of the young man was instantly blasted into pieces. The extremely ferocious and furious force swept down and collided with the young man, causing his figure to tremble violently before he instantly spat out a mouthful of blood, and then his figure was blasted flying. Yeah, you're actually still alive. Not bad, not bad. You're qualified to make me attack a second time. Lang Li flew out, sweeping up a piercingly cold, murderous aura as he charged towards the young man. The curved blade in his hand emitted a dense blood-red light, and the twisting blood-red light rubbed against the airflow in the air, emitting a sharp sound. Lang Li smiled cruelly. I won't be sending you off. The young man's pupils constricted while dense terror surged onto his face. However, just as the blood-red machete was about to slash at the other party's throat, a majestic aura surged over from the other side. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out. A fist shrouded in dense black light struck the blood-red scimitar first. Space trembled violently, while a chaotic wave of light swept out from the point of collision. In the next moment, both Lang Li and the fierce figure were blasted back, and fierce gales whistled through the surroundings. It's you? Lang Li revealed a surprised expression as he retreated a few dozen meters. On the other hand, the eyes of the young man from the Thousand Crane sect lit up, and he revealed a grateful expression. Junior brother Chu Hen. O.M. O.M. Surging overbearing true yuan wantonly surged around Chu Hen's body as he coldly stared at Lang Li in front of him. You're actually still alive? Lang Li was slightly surprised. He remembered that he'd personally witnessed Chu Hen and Shi Lan being obliterated by the terrifying force of the sacred wing heavenly flame bird self-destruction while he was at Myriad Beast Ridge. However, Chu Hen was actually standing in front of him completely unharmed, and it was truly surprising. Bang! With the addition of over a dozen members of the Azura sect, the Thousand Crane sect was on the verge of being unable to hold on any longer. Roar! The roars of the ferocious beasts were deafening and extremely ferocious. More and more disciples of the Thousand Crane sect were losing their lives in the encirclement of the terrifying Beast King realm demon beasts and the members of the Azura sect. Ha ha ha! Tui was especially excited, and he was practically insanely cruel. Every single disciple of the Thousand Crane sect who died at his hands had died in a horrifying manner, and it was impossible to preserve their corpses. The members of the Thousand Crane sect were both furious and sorrowful. Are we really going to be annihilated by these members of the Azura sect today? Rumble. Suddenly, at this moment, a monstrous aura suddenly swept over from the horizon towards them from afar. Lightning clouds surged and covered the sky. After that, a furious roar resounded like a thunderclap through the sky. Bastards from the Azura sect! How audacious of you! Its senior brother, Sherwin Shing. The eyes of the members of the Thousand Crane sect couldn't help but light up. In the blink of an eye, Sherwin Shing had arrived before them, and then a terrifying aura that was like a mountain erupted from within him. Stormy Ocean Heaven Shock Palm. Along with Sherwin Shing's furious shout, a destructive force that was comparable to a torrent that descended from the heavens surged forward like a torrent, and it smashed down towards the group of demon beasts in front of them. The heavens and the earth split apart, and it shook the heavens and the earth. Just this attack from Sherwin Shing had actually blasted over 30 formidable demon beasts into bits. Shriek! At the same time, the resounding cry of a hawk that resounded through the 9 heavens resounded through the heavens and the earth. After that, a ray of white light tore through the sky, and it was so swift that it seemed like the chaotic flow of space that had been flowing through the annals of time. Everyone raised their eyes to look over, and they saw that the white ray of light had the outline of a hawk. It was swift like a bolt of lightning, and it dragged a strand of powerful light, golden strands of energy through space. Senior Brother Ko has arrived as well. We're saved now. The members of the Thousand Crane sect were extremely delighted. The sect really did make the right choice by arranging for 2 core disciples to stay here. The ray of light from the hawk slashed down like a shuttle, and after it slashed a few dozen demon beasts into 2 like a hot knife through butter, it didn't slow down at all as it assaulted Tuyi. Bang! When the 2 collided, a circle of dazzling light patterns bloomed like a firework shower. The violent collision of power was like a meteorite falling from the sky, colliding with a mountain. Violent winds swept through the surroundings, and then the 2 figures were swiftly separated and blasted backwards. Tuye's entire body surged with a vicious aura, and he smiled coldly as he gazed at the young man whose aura surged into the sky. Ko Tianshun. His icy cold voice carried a trace of ruthlessness. 2 fellows with some ability have finally arrived. Killing intent surged from Ko Tianshun's body, and waves of white radiance swept out like the sun. The hawk pattern on his chest flowed with light as if it had come to life. You're courting death. Hee hee. Tuyi laughed smugly and said, Since you've come, then we won't disturb you any longer. Farewell. As soon as he finished speaking, wind and lightning surged, and a dark tide blotted out the sky. Waves of black smoke and fog rose up wantonly. The Azura sect's geniuses understood and did not continue fighting. Instead, they melted into the black fog in different directions. Ashura's sect had come prepared, but they were also prepared to leave. Moreover, the way they retreated was rather special. Instead of a dozen people squeezing together and leaving at the same time, they retreated one by one in an orderly manner. This was beneficial to diverting the Thousand Crane sect's attention, and it would prevent the experts of the Thousand Crane sect from pursuing them and annihilating them in one go. The dozen or so people temporarily split up and fled. After confirming that they had completely shaken off the enemy, they would gather at the prearranged location. This was the method that the Shura sect had been using for hundreds of years. After all, a group of Azura sect's experts were like a pack of wolves, and a lone wolf was also a wolf. Although splitting up and retreating would disperse the overall strength of the group. However, it was better than gathering together and retreating, only to be annihilated by the experts of the Thousand Crane sect who pursued them from behind. It was necessary to distract the other party. Retreat. One by one, the experts of the Azura sect quickly left. Tui gently made a flying kiss with his right hand. Goodbye. Then, he merged into the mist behind him. On the other side, Blade Absolute Langley, who was confronting Chu Hen, also smiled evilly. He looked at Chu Hen with disdain and immediately fled. Ko Tianxin's expression was gloomy and cold. Do you think it would be so easy to leave? He was just about to give chase when Shing shouted, Tianxin, be careful of an ambush ahead. Don't fall for it. Let's deal with the matter here first. Although Tu Yi, Lang Li, and the others had retreated, the beasts were still attacking the members of the Thousand Cranes sect in a frenzy. Most of the Palace Hall's disciples were injured. If Ko Tianxin and Shing went to pursue the members of the Azura sect would definitely suffer heavy casualties. Bastard! Ko Tianxin was burning with rage. He angrily struck out with his palm, directly shattering the head of a long-haired elephant, then shouted loudly, I and Sherwin Star will cover the rear. Everyone else, retreat to the Black Rock Peak 5 kilometers away. Yes, Senior Brother Ko. Everyone agreed in unison. With the arrival of Ko Tianxin and Shing, they gradually regained their footing and retreated to Black Rock Peak. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly as he stared coldly in the direction Lang Li had left. A ghastly killing intent surged in the space between his brows. There was no enmity between him and Lang Li. However, Lang Li had killed Shi Lan's younger brother. To Chu Hen, Shi Lan's importance did not need to be mentioned. Moreover, Chu Hen had promised Shi Lan that he would definitely take Lang Li's life if he had the chance to avenge Shi Chun, the saber absolute of the 7 absolutes. The coldness in Chu Hen's eyes was extremely sharp. At this moment, Lang Li was leaving by himself, so it was a good opportunity. He immediately didn't hesitate to transform into a ray of light that vanished in the opposite direction towards which the members of the Thousand Crane sect had retreated. Chapter 449. In the depths of Mount Mang's forest, the lush trees were over a few dozen meters tall. The air was filled with a moist and fresh smell of earth. Chu Hen swiftly pursued Lang Li, and the corners of his eyes faintly flickered with an icy cold light. Chu Hen's heart ached when he recalled how Shi Lan had tried her best to conceal her sorrow while leaning on him. When he was in the Sacred Star Dynasty, Chu Hen remembered how well Shi Lan had treated him. During the Imperial Capital Martial Competition, before the finals of the Earth Rankings battle, Shi Lan had used the Celestial Cycle Sacred Heart to help Chu Hen improve his cultivation in order to help Chu Hen gain confidence in defeating Wei Qingfan. After that, she'd fallen into a period of weakness for 2 months. Not to mention everything else, just the fact that Shi Lan had pushed Chu Hen away without hesitation at the Myriad Beast Ridge and caused herself to be struck by the Sacred Wing, Heavenly Flame Sparrow's energy, was enough to make Chu Hen remember it for the rest of his life. Right now, the only thing Chu Hen can give to that beautiful woman who is as gentle as water is to kill Lang Li and avenge her brother Shi Chun. The dim and lush forest was filled with danger, and it was quiet to the point of being slightly uneasy. Needless to say, the members of the Azura sect were extremely skilled at concealing their auras. Chu Hen was practically unable to sense Lang Li's aura anymore. It was like Lang Li had vanished into thin air. It was difficult for Chu Hen to capture him. If only the chess pieces were here. Chu Hen frowned slightly as he muttered softly. It wasn't a coincidence that the numerous Hall disciples of the Thousand Crane sect had almost died at the hands of the Azura sect. The members of the Azura sect didn't just possess shocking combat strength. They were extremely disciplined as well. Even when they were retreating, they didn't act too ostentatiously just because they had the upper hand. Chu Hen thought to himself, if he still couldn't find Lang Li after advancing another 5 kilometers, then he could only choose to retreat. Swish! Suddenly, Chu Hen's figure paused. His movements were light as he landed on the ground. A slight airflow stirred up the dead leaves and dust on the ground. Come out, Chu Hen said faintly as he glanced at a towering tree on his left. After that, a slim figure in a black dress walked out from behind the tree. It was the Red Lotus. What are you doing here? Chu Hen frowned slightly, and a trace of confusion flashed in his eyes. Hong Lian looked at him with mixed feelings. Some indifference appeared on her cold face as she said gently, just like you. Same as me? Chu Hen was slightly startled. Weren't you hunting down Lang Li for Shilan's sake? Hong Lian's voice remained indifferent. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes involuntarily narrowed. In that case, the other party was also chasing after Lang Li. But what was the purpose of all this? You have enmity with Lang Li? That has nothing to do with you, replied Hong Lian. Chu Hen obtained the answer from her slightly evasive gaze, and he continued, looks like the enmity between you and my master was probably caused by Lang Li, right? I'm really curious. Why would you want to kill such a kind woman like my master? Hong Lian clenched her fists while she puckered her lips lightly, and she seemed to be slightly conflicted in her heart. After a short moment of hesitation, she said, Shilan's younger brother was ambushed by the Azura sect while he was on a mission all those years ago. His group suffered heavy casualties, and her younger brother died at Lang Li's hands. According to this, the leader of the group, Wu Yu, felt guilty toward Shilan, so he chose to commit suicide. The leader of the group committed suicide? Chu Hen was slightly shocked, and he said probingly, You're targeting my master because of Wu Yu? Huh? Hong Lian laughed coldly, and it was extremely laughable. I've never had any relatives since I was young, and senior brother Wu Yu took good care of me when I just entered the Thousand Crane sect. Later on, I became a hall disciple, but he was still hovering around the inner court disciple realm. But it's fine. In my heart, he'll always be my most respected and loved big brother. But never had I imagined that senior brother Wu Yu, who'd always been steady, would actually say that he had wronged that bitch, Shilan. Moreover, I never imagined that he would commit suicide because he felt guilty towards that bitch. Chu Hen's gaze couldn't help but turn cold when he heard Hong Lian call Shilan a bitch. However, he restrained his rage and said in a low voice, Master wouldn't push the blame onto that Wu Yu. Chu Hen understood Shilan's character. No matter what happened, she would only endure it silently by herself. Even if she was facing the person who killed her younger brother on the Myriad Beast Ridge, she would always consider the safety of the others in the group first. She was such a kind woman that caused others to feel sorry for her. So, Shilan would never ask Wu Yu to commit suicide to atone for his crimes. I know that Shilan didn't ask him to do that, but she's still related to senior brother Wu Yu's death. Hong Lian was slightly agitated, but she quickly calmed down, and then a cold light surged in her eyes. Senior brother Wu Yu's death was caused by Lang Li. I must kill him. Chu Hen frowned and said in a low voice, Are you able to track Lang Li's aura? He's heading towards the southwest. I understand. You can go back. I'll take revenge for you and Master. You? Hong Lian frowned while a slightly complicated expression surged onto her face. Chu Hen let out a light sigh of relief, and his gaze gradually eased up. Don't hate Instructor Shilan. You've merely suffered the pain of losing senior brother Wu Yu. On the other hand, she hasn't just suffered the pain of losing her only loved one. She feels extremely guilty for Wu Yu's death as well. Otherwise, she wouldn't have left the Thousand Crane sect all those years ago, and she wouldn't have repeatedly chosen to retreat when she had the chance to kill you. Hong Lian's delicate figure trembled slightly, and she replied with a slightly unnatural expression. Don't forget that you're just a little kid in front of me. Why do you have to lecture me? Chu Hen smiled indifferently. I'm sorry, but you're only a few years older than me. Not to mention that I'm the leader of the Hall Disciples now. In terms of ranking, you have to call me senior brother. You. Hong Lian was speechless once more. Senior brother? That little kid that I never took seriously in the past has actually become my senior brother? This really is a strange feeling. But when I think about it, it really is like that. Go back first. I'm afraid that you'll get in my way when the time comes. With that, Chu Hen's figure flickered, and he transformed into a streak of light that disappeared into the dense forest to the southwest. Hong Lian was both angered and annoyed by his final words. That little bastard actually said that I would get in his way? How infuriating. Oomph. Don't be so arrogant, you little brat. After grumbling casually, Hong Lian also moved, following behind Chu Hen. Chu Hen's speed was extremely fast, and he constantly used the light, shaking movement technique to chase after Lang Lang. Because he had lost his target earlier, he didn't know where to go. Now that he had learned from Hong Lian that Lang Li had headed southwest, Chu Hen immediately raised his speed to the maximum once he had a clear target. I didn't expect that the enmity between instructor and Hong Lian would arise because of this. A single Lang Li had brought so much pain and suffering to so many people. The killing intent in Chu Hen's heart continued to rise. For the sake of Red Lotus, for the sake of Shi Chun, and even more so for the sake of Shilan, he absolutely had to use Lang Li's life to fill this hole of hatred. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen had traveled a dozen or so kilometers. He continued to travel deeper and deeper into the Mang Mountain Forest. The dark, damp forest was as gloomy as evening. His surroundings were completely silent, and the wind howled in Chu Hen's ears. The scenery on either side of him was quickly left behind. Whoosh! Suddenly, a violent wave of killing intent surged in his direction. Bang! With an explosive sound, the birds and beasts in the forest fled in fright. A huge towering tree in front of Chu Hen was suddenly split in the middle. Wood splinters flew everywhere, and dust rose into the air. An incomparably solid blood-red saber light tore through the air, directly slashing towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly. His figure moved, and he somersaulted, narrowly dodging the saber light. Bang, bang, bang. The incomparably powerful blood-red saber light flew all the way down, and the dozen or so trees behind Chu Hen were directly cut in half. A biting cold and vigorous aura swept over, and a figure emitting a bloodthirsty and vicious aura stood on the branch of a large tree in front of him. His eyes were as cold as a fierce wolf's, and he stared at Chu Hen. Ta! Chu Hen steadily landed on the ground, and the corners of his mouth curled into a frivolous smile. What? Not running anymore? Running? Lang Li sneered, and replied with some disdain. Do you think you are qualified to tell me, Lang Li, to run? I'm just a little curious. Why are you so stubborn and keep chasing me to your death? Hee, do you recognize this thing? Shing, a slight metallic sound rang in the air, and with a flash of white light, a sharp black saber suddenly appeared in Chu Hen's hand. The saber was 3 feet long, and its appearance was somewhat similar to a sword. The surface of the saber was covered with strange patterns, and the strange patterns were like the fangs of a fierce beast. This is? Looking at the limitless Fong in Chu Hen's hand, Lang Li's eyes slightly narrowed, and he said coldly, I was wondering why I felt that this saber was a little familiar when I was at the Myriad Beast Ridge. So it's that brat's weapon. Chu Hen looked at him and faintly sneered and said, It's good that you remember. What? That beauty she gave this saber to you? It seems like your relationship is not ordinary. It is indeed quite extraordinary. However, I did not come to find you to chat. Chu Hen's tone changed, and 2 sharp rays of cold light shot out from his eyes. His voice suddenly dropped to the freezing point. Today, this limitless Fong will drink the blood of Lang Li and sharpen its edge. Swoosh. As his voice fell, Chu Hen directly shot out like a sharp arrow, and surging true yuan gushed out of his body like a tide. Both of his hands grasped the saber's hilt, and a thick black light that rose like flames quickly climbed up the saber's body. Its power was peerless, and its flames soared into the sky. From afar, it seemed like Chu Hen's hand was holding a light pillar that burned with the flames of the underworld. Slash! Chu Hen's aura was cold, and he flew in front of Langley. Both of his hands grasped the saber, and he raised it above his head and used the simplest and most direct mountain-splitting momentum to chop at his opponent. Chapter 450. Bang! The blade spitting out a dense black brilliance, and the curved blade, surging with a blood-red glow, collided head-on. A chaotic wave of air immediately spread out in all directions. The vigorous remaining power was like ripples on the surface of water as it spread out in the air. The powerful impact that originated from Chu Hen's body surged towards Lang Li like an undercurrent. In an instant, the tree trunk under Lang Li's feet directly exploded. He then slid down from where he stood and flashed towards the ground behind him. Boom! Lang Li's feet landed on the ground. The soles of his feet dragged on the ground for over 10 meters before he was able to stabilize himself. Restless true essence surged out of Lang Li's body. He tightened his somewhat numb arm and stared at Chu Hen with a cold gaze filled with surprise and doubt. I was wondering why you had the courage to chase after me. So you've broken through to the third rank of the void-piercing realm. Hey! Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. He continued to take advantage of the situation and swung his blade at his opponent's head. I'll give you a chance to leave your corpse intact. Slit your own throat. Shameless boasting. Today, I'll let you know just how stupid of a decision you've made. Lang Li's killing intent rose, and the curved blade in his hand blossomed with a gorgeous light pattern. Raising the blade in his hand, he chopped out towards Chu Hen's full power. The powerful might caused the air to tremble, and the surging red blade wave violently surged and surged. Soon after, the silhouette of a blood-colored fierce wolf appeared from within, setting off an unstoppable, ruthless aura as it whizzed down. A cold light flashed through Chu Hen's eyes. The domineering black light of the chaotic body wrapped around the sharp blade of the limitless Fong like a long vine. At the same time, there were strands of demonic purple light. One black and one purple, two different colored light patterns, wantonly intertwined together. Chu Hen brandished the limitless tooth and fiercely pounced towards the blood-colored ferocious wolf. Buzz! A terrifying aura erupted from Chu Hen's body. The dense purple light and the domineering black light formed a saber light that looked like two giant pythons coming out of their caves. They coiled around each other and collided head-on with the blood-red saber light. Boom! The two forces collided head-on, setting off energy turbulence that soared into the sky like a tidal wave. The gorgeous saber patterns burst forth wantonly, and the powerful aftershocks whistled in all directions. The dead branches and fallen leaves on the ground were all swept away, and the towering trees and the surroundings that were so thick that several people could encircle with their arms around were directly cut in half. Immediately after, Chu Hen cleaved through the waves, breaking through the chaotic energy wave in front of him. In an instant, he arrived in front of Lang Li, and with a horizontal slash, he slashed towards Lang Li's head. This is definitely not the so-called saber. It's too early for you to celebrate. Lang Li's eyes revealed a fierce light. As he bent his body to dodge, the blood saber in his hand slashed out diagonally, attacking Chu Hen's abdomen. Chu Hen did not show the slightest panic. Suddenly, he quickly stretched out his left hand and turned it into a claw. Like a falcon pouncing on a rabbit, he accurately and violently clasped the wrist of Lang Li's arm that was holding the saber. Buzz! The sharp blood-red scimitar steadily stopped less than 20 centimeters away from Chu Hen's body. Lang Li was shocked and angry. The opponent was actually able to block his attack with the strength of the third rank of the void-piercing realm. However, in the next second, along with the rapid sound of breaking the wind, the cold, limitless Fong directly chopped over. Lang Li's eyes revealed a trace of fierceness, but also like Chu Hen, his other hand turned into a claw, and with a very fast speed, he clasped Chu Hen's wrist. Bang! In the air, a burst of muffled trembling sound rang out. The moment Lang Li grabbed Chu Hen's wrist, An extremely ferocious, hidden energy shockwave suddenly surged forth violently. Lang Li's complexion changed. He only felt his arm go numb, and the angle of his elbow rapidly narrowed. Buzz! The air wave faintly trembled, and the sharp edge of Limitless Tooth stopped above Lang Li's shoulder. However, the distance between the blade and Lang Li's neck was only the width of a finger. A wisp of chi lingering on the blade cut a little skin on Lang Li's neck, and a faint red bloodstain faintly overflowed. In an instant, Lang Li's face was gloomy and ashen. He was shocked, annoyed, and angry. As the second of the Heaven's chosen seven absolutes, he, who was also a core disciple of the Shura sect, was actually injured by a nobody. This was absolutely not allowed to happen. Bastard, you're courting death. Boom! In the next moment, an astonishing power once again rose from Lang Li's body. A murderous aura soared into the sky, and surging vital energy surged. He directly shook off Chu Hen's arm, pulled back his scimitar, and was about to launch the next round of attacks. However, Chu Hen's speed was not slow at all. At the same time that his opponent shook off his palm, Chu Hen also broke free from his opponent's claw. Then, before his opponent could swing his scimitar, Chu Hen's powerful and heavy leg firmly landed on his opponent's chest. Bang! A circle of vital energy mixed with dust rose up. Lang Li let out a muffled sound and immediately retreated more than 10 meters. Lowering his head to look at the black footprint on his chest, Lang Li was unable to restrain his anger. A piercingly cold wind swirled around his body, and the blood-red light that lingered around his body became stronger and denser. The veins on his forehead bulged, and he looked like a ferocious beast. Little bastard, I'll definitely kill you today. Hey, Lango, are you anxious? Shut up for me. In his rage, Lang Li rushed towards Chu Hen, raised his scimitar, and chopped down. Chu Hen was not the slightest bit afraid, and he launched an attack and defense to meet the attack. The two people's strength collided, and all kinds of violent energy constantly collided. Lang Li was already determined to kill Chu Hen, and there was no need to mention Chu Hen. The reason he came here today was to bring back Lang Li's head. Both sides continued to fiercely fight, and balls of fierce vital energy were like tides, wantonly attacking the space between the heavens and the earth. Countless dense and deep cracks appeared on the ground, and trees were directly crushed into powder. The resplendent light-patterned saber radiance was disorderly and wantonly, causing the sky to darken and the earth to darken. Its momentum was shocking. Chu Hen and Lang Li fought from the sky to the ground, and then fiercely fought from the ground to the sky. They were so angry that they were like two fierce beasts fighting to the death. It had to be said that Lang Li's strength was particularly strong. He was known as the Blade Absolute, and he was also a core disciple of the Shura sect. His cultivation at the peak of the fourth rank of the void-piercing realm was far superior to Zhang Ju and Lu Tianxiang, whom he had encountered in the 10,000 Beast Ridge. Compared to Kong Bin and Hu Tong, who Chu Hen had fought before, he was also much stronger. But even so, not only did Chu Hen not fall into the slightest disadvantage, but he also steadily occupied the advantage. The more Lang Li fought, the more shocked he became. Although he had never underestimated Chu Hen, he still underestimated the other party. The former's incomparably fierce Shura blade technique could not even gain the slightest advantage in front of Chu Hen. Boom! The black scimitar and the red blood scimitar once again collided together. Sparks flew in all directions, and chi waves flew everywhere. Chu Hen and Lang Li quickly pushed back like two eagles. Immediately after, Chu Hen's gaze turned cold. Accompanied by a chi sound of restlessness, an active dark lightning pattern quickly climbed up the limitless Fong's blade. The restless extreme power was like a lightning snake coiling around. Chu Hen leaped to the area above Lang Li, gripped the scimitar with both hands, and chopped down. Clang! An endless aura of destruction came down, and the lightning-like dark lightning turned into a nearly 200-meter-long heaven-severing blade aura. The aura shook all directions and shook the heavens. The biting cold wind stirred up the thunderstorm. Feeling the violent and terrifying aura contained in Chu Hen's move, Lang Li's expression changed again. He gritted his teeth, and a low, beast-like roar came from his throat. Boom! Immediately after, an earth-shattering blood-red light burst out from Lang Li's body. The vast and mighty true essence could topple the mountains and overturn the seas, like a volcano that was spewing flames into the sky. A dense and cold aura spread out from Lang Li's body. An endless blood-colored glow violently surged out like a tide. A blood-colored shadow, over 20 meters tall, surged out from the red glow and appeared behind Lang Li in a shocking manner. "Sure a chop," Lang Li shouted loudly, and together with a monstrous power, an incomparably solid blood-red blade aura, with a power that pierced through the sky, met the dark lightning power. Bang! The extremely astonishing power collided and set off a majestic sound of intersecting thunder. A circle of vigorous red and black light patterns spread out in the sky, and the powerful chi wave was like a flood that had opened the floodgates, crushing down towards the deep forest below. Large numbers of trees were uprooted like clouds scattered by the wind and swayed in all directions. "I'm sorry to tell you, but your time of death has come." Lang Li's voice was like rolling thunder. It was deafening. An aura that was several times stronger than before exploded, and his sinister eyes were filled with killing intent as he glared angrily at Chu Hen. What was even more astonishing was that the blood-red shadow behind Lang Li rapidly expanded, and from the previous 20-meter-tall figure, it instantly became 100 feet tall. An astonishing killing intent filled the air, and it completely enveloped Chu Hen. The huge blood-red shadow was like an evil Shura from hell, and its extremely strong aura formed an oppressive pressure, causing the blood in Chu Hen's body to flow rapidly. Lang Li's face became ferocious. Blue veins bulged on his forehead, neck, and arms. Circles of blood-red light lingered around his body, forming a whirlpool. The murderous aura was especially frightening. "Hee, stinking brat, I really admire your calmness. To be honest, with your potential, in a few more years, you will definitely be a disaster for my Shura sect. But you're stupid, running here to die at this time. I really don't know where you get your confidence from." Chu Hen raised his eyebrows, and a demonic purple light surged in his clear eyes. Immediately after, the crisscrossing dark lightning was released from Chu Hen's body once again. Chi. Chu Hen's aura suddenly rose, and streaks of black lightning whistled in all directions, intertwining like electric snakes. Chapter 451. Chi. At the same time that Lang Li flew into a rage, the surging aura within Chu Hen's body also rose into the sky. Countless black lightning bolts broke out of his body and interweaved into a huge lightning net. It covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping Lang Li in front of him. The sky and earth seemed to have changed color. Thunder roared and a storm came. The black lightning net that was comparable to a sky net enveloped Lang Li and a 100-foot-tall blood azure shadow behind him with the power to cover the sky. Roar! Lang Li's throat emitted a low and deep roar like that of a fierce beast. The veins on his sinister face bulged and popped out. He furiously raised his blade and fiercely chopped at the black lightning net. "You think you can trap me like this? You are too naive." Boom! The powerful and majestic blade wave was like a fierce beast that had opened the floodgates. It set off a surging impact that collided with the astonishing might of the black lightning net. Sparks flew in all directions, and true essence burst out. The entire huge net shook violently, showing signs of breaking at any time. The bloodlight of the azure shadow behind Lang Li soared into the sky, under the binding of the dark lightning net. It was like an unruly and violent fierce beast, using all its strength to tear apart the heavenly net and break through its shackles. An ice-cold glint flashed in Chu Hen's eyes like a blade. The Yuan Dan in his body rotated rapidly, and an unending stream of dark lightning energy surged out. The interweaving black lightning net quickly spread to the entire body of Lang Li and the blood azure shadow. It was like a bone-burning flame. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a huge net of light patterns, completely enveloping them within. "Withdraw!" Chu Hen shouted. In the next instant, a strange energy fluctuation once again erupted from his body. Chi-Chi, the dark lightning net that covered Lang Li's entire body, rapidly unfolded and retracted, causing the area that Lang Li could move to become smaller and smaller. Numerous crisscrossing light patterns were as sharp as electric blades. At the same time as they retracted, the sharp electric blades directly cut apart the true yuan that Lang Li had erupted with. Lang Li's aura was quickly suppressed. From afar, the crimson azura behind him looked like a giant trapped by a heavenly net. It made him feel more and more furious and uneasy. Lang Li was shocked and angry. Actually, he did not expect that the lightning net released by Chu Hen would be so firm. Under the impact of the dark thunder, Lang Li's meridians were slightly numb. Rumble. At this moment, the aura that erupted from Chu Hen became violent and extreme once again. Streaks of dark lightning wrapped around his body formed a spiral shape, like a black vortex gathering in front of Chu Hen. Space trembled incessantly as wind and thunder roared. The deafening sound caused the blood in people's bodies to boil. Immediately after, a huge black ball of lightning appeared between the heavens and the earth. A thick and terrifying aura filled the heavens and the earth, causing the mountains and rivers to change color. Dark thunder kill. Without the slightest delay, he did not intend to give Lang Li any chance to react. Chu Hen pushed with all his strength, and the enormous black lightning ball instantly shot out like a meteorite from outer space. It swept up a destructive aura that soared to the heavens as it pressed down on Lang Li in front of it. The move of this ball of lightning was exactly the same as the move of the Darkwing Flood Dragon that he had encountered in the Thunderclap region. Everywhere it went, space trembled, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was instantly sucked out. Even the dust particles were completely turned into nothingness. What? Lang Li's pupils shrank violently, and a thick expression of shock appeared on his sinister face. Boom! In the next instant, a shockingly violent shockwave exploded in the air. A ball of black light pattern aura surged into the sky like a huge mushroom cloud. It was earth-shattering, and the mighty power seemed to want to poke a hole in the sky. The incomparably violent power was released wantonly, and the endless black electric current was like a flood that broke through a dam, bombarding Lang Li's body. The latter's violent and bloodthirsty murderous aura was instantly suppressed like a mountain. Rumble, the blood-red azure shadow that traversed between heaven and earth, was also bombarded into pieces in an instant. The surging blood-red light was like a burst of a tsunami that spread between heaven and earth. The black lightning pattern and the blood-red light constantly blended together, and the region within a radius of thousands of miles was set off by a rapid airflow hurricane. The shocking aftermath swept in all directions, and the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The rivers flowed backwards, and a thick layer of soil fell from the lush jungle. Hundreds of beasts fled, and birds flew away in shock. Everyone was shocked by the monstrous aura between heaven and earth. Whoosh! Suddenly, a figure covered in blood rushed out of the chaotic energy riot and appeared in Chu Hen's sight. If anyone saw the scene in front of them at this moment, they would probably be dumbfounded. Blade Absolute Lang Li's clothes were ragged, and his body was covered in wounds and blood. The blood-red scimitar in his hand emitted a power fluctuation that fluctuated between strong and weak, and was especially unstable. He was shocked and angry. However, he was even more afraid and angry. Lang Li looked fiercely at Chu Hen, and his eyes flashed with determination. Without saying anything, he turned around and left. Humph. Chu Hen's face showed a bit of disdain, and then, along with a strong wave of true essence, a brilliant starlight broke out of his body. Bright silver light enveloped Chu Hen's body, and like a bright star, silver light sprinkled across the sky. Buzz, immediately after, Chu Hen scattered like fireworks, and he split into 7. 6 doppelgangers separated from his body. Looking at the frantically fleeing Lang Li in front of him, the 7 Chu Hen raised the black scimitar in their hands at the same time. Light patterns that looked like silver vines immediately climbed up the blade, and the black scimitar immediately turned crystal clear silver. The starlight that constantly swallowed and spat out seemed to be the essence of the power of 7 stars gathered together. All-Cade strike, Chu Hen shouted in a deep voice. The power rose, and the scimitar fell. Straightforward, neat. Buzz. In an instant, 7 silver scimitar rays with the power to cut the sky, like 7 meteors chasing after the moon, traversed the sky and attacked Lang Li. The 7 scimitar rays were extremely fast, like auroras that pierced through the sky. A thick aura of destruction approached at extremely fast speed. Lang Li's expression changed drastically, and his eyes surged with a strong sense of fear. No, boom! The chaotic silver starlight immediately exploded, and the 7 scimitar rays concentrated at one point, all attacking Lang Li's body. In an instant, the terrifying power that exploded was especially bright and dazzling, and the silver light that was like the sun lit up the entire sky. The incomparably powerful scimitar rays came one after another, continuously attacking Lang Li. The latter hurriedly circulated the true essence in his body to protect his vitals. But even so, the power of the All-Cade strike easily broke through his defense. Chapter 452. Bang! A heavy explosion sound exploded in the sky. In an instant, a bloody mist rose and minced meat flew. The part of Lang Li's body below his waist was instantly shattered by the unstoppable and berserk starlight blade light. Ah! Lang Li's eyes widened in shock. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and his face immediately turned incomparably pale. Violent waves of air surged downwards, and Lang Li, who only had half his body left, fell from the sky like a sandbag. Soon after, he crashed heavily into the rubble below. The sky darkened, and chaotic waves of air and inner yuan wantonly mixed and filled the air. Subsequently, the dark lightning runes around Chu Hen's body and the power of the stars rapidly withdrew. His figure moved, and he flashed down from the sky to Lang Li's side. At this moment, if anyone were to witness this scene, their jaws would definitely drop to the ground in shock. Blade Ju of the 7 Absolutes, the core disciple of the Azura sect, Lang Li, was currently lying on the ground, on the verge of death. The lower half of his body had disappeared without a trace, and through the bloody wounds, one could clearly see the damaged organs in his body. No one would have thought that Blade Ju Lang Li, who was rather famous among the various large sects of the 100 Nations, would end up in such a miserable state. Whoosh! Chu Hen held the black blade at an angle, and his ice-cold eyes did not contain the slightest trace of emotion. He indifferently said, "You will have to pay for what you've done sooner or later. Today, I will take your life in place of the blade's original owner." Boundless terror quickly spread across Lang Li's face, and he actually looked at Chu Hen with a somewhat pleading expression. No hiss. The dazzling blade light cut through the air like a crescent moon, and warm blood spurted out like a fountain. Immediately after, a round head flew out and rolled on the ground for over a dozen meters before coming to a stop. Lang Li's eyes were wide open, and he died with remaining grievances. Even at the moment of his death, he had probably never imagined that the scythe of the Grim Reaper would swing so quickly. Phew! Chu Hen let out a soft sigh of relief, and his handsome face revealed a somewhat relaxed expression. Shichen, you can rest in peace now, although we've never met before. Immediately, Chu Hen took out a piece of cloth and casually wrapped Lang Li's head in it, intending to take it away. Previously, he had promised Yilan that he would definitely bring back Lang Li's head. This could be considered as a routine promise. After casually putting Lang Li's head into an independent storage ring, Chu Hen then put Lang Li's storage bracelet and the blood-red scimitar into his palm. The long and narrow blood-red scimitar exuded a piercingly sharp aura, and a murderous aura exuded from the blade. "This is a good saber," Chu Hen softly muttered to himself. "This is at least a weapon that is ranked in the top 30 of the spiritual weapon ranking." After that, Chu Hen probed Lang Li's storage bracelet with his divine sense. As a core disciple of the Azura sect, Lang Li's collection was naturally quite rich. There were many primordial crystal stones and cultivation resources. Buzz, a white light flashed, and a dark red scroll appeared in Chu Hen's hand. With some curiosity, Chu Hen opened the scroll, and the 3 words Azura / came into view. It was the martial skill that Lang Li had just displayed. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly. In reality, Lang Li had not had the time to display his most powerful killing move before he was killed by Chu Hen. The blood-red Azura that was 100 feet tall behind Lang Li earlier exuded an extremely powerful aura. However, Chu Hen had the upper hand by making the first move. He had preemptively used the dark lightning net to restrict the growth of Lang Li's aura, and did not give Lang Li any chance to display his ultimate move. In other words, if Lang Li had really released the Azura / the battle would not have ended so quickly, and the two of them would still be engaged in an intense battle. This martial skill consumes a lot of time to use, but its aura is still very overbearing. I'll take it back and study it. Chu Hen was like a robber who killed and robbed, and directly put the dark red scroll into his storage ring. After doing all this, Chu Hen glanced indifferently at Lang Li's mutilated corpse. He did not plan to stay here any longer, and turned around to leave. Just as Chu Hen was a few hundred meters away from the battlefield, a familiar figure came from the forest in front of him. It was none other than Hong Lian, who had followed him all the way here. When she saw Chu Hen coming over, she could not help but step forward and ask, "Where's Lang Li? Did you tell him to run away?" "Run away?" Chu Hen was stunned at first, and then he replied lazily, "What do you think?" Hong Lian frowned slightly. "Why didn't you delay him for a while longer?" Chu Hen was exasperated and amused at the same time. He glanced at the ruins of the battle behind him. Wasn't half of Lang Li's corpse still lying there? However, due to the distance and the corpse being mutilated, it was impossible to tell that it was Lang Li if one did not take a closer look, coupled with the fact that Chu Hen had used an extremely short amount of time to kill Lang Li. From the moment he caught up to the other party to the moment he killed him, it actually took less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Hong Lian had followed Chu Hen's footsteps all the way here. To her, perhaps Chu Hen had the ability to fight Lang Li, but it was not enough to kill him in such a short amount of time in the battle. As a result, Hong Lian's first thought was that Lang Li had run away. Chu Hen could not be bothered to explain to her, so he said casually, "Let's go back." Hong Lian was slightly displeased. She'd finally caught up to Lang Li with great difficulty, yet it had been wasted just like that. If she'd been able to catch up to Lang Li earlier and assist Chu Hen, then they would have had a good chance of killing Lang Li. Hong Lian gazed at Chu Hen's figure that had vanished into the distance, and she sighed helplessly in the end. Black Rock Peak, on a mountain that was a few kilometers away from the destroyed Sky Brilliance platform. All the disciples of the Thousand Cranes sect could finally heave sighs of relief. At the edge of the mountain ridge, there were piles of badly mutilated corpses of demonic beasts. Because the minds of those demon beasts had been controlled by the members of the Azura sect, so they would continue to pursue them no matter how the members of the Thousand Cranes sect were treated. Since it was like that, Ko Tianchen and Sherwin Xing had no choice but to annihilate all the demon beasts that pursued them. At the peak of Black Rock Peak, the expressions of the two core disciples in charge of the recruitment this time were quite unsightly. It was especially so for Ko Tianchen. His expression was livid. These bastards from the Azura sect. Chapter 453. Tianchen, why do you think the members of the Azura sect have appeared here? Asked Sherwin Xing in a low voice at the peak of Black Rock Peak. A cold glow surged through the space between Ko Tianchen's brows. He didn't answer Sherwin Xing's question right away. and he shot his gaze toward the disciples of the Thousand Crane sect instead. The sudden and shocking turn of events had caused most of the disciples to be injured, and more than half of them were heavily injured. Moreover, over 10 of them had died during the battle. Losing over a dozen Palace Hall disciples was definitely a huge blow to the Thousand Crane sect. Everyone, please endure it a little longer. I've already notified the sect to send reinforcements over. Elder Hua calmed everyone's emotions as he distributed healing pills. Because the teleportation formation that led back to the sect was set up on the Sky Glory platform, and the Azura sect had destroyed it along with the teleportation formation. Under such circumstances, they could only wait for reinforcements from the sect. An infuriated young man cursed. Those damnable bastards from the Azura sect. Don't all of you find it strange? We've never been attacked during the test in the past. It really is quite puzzling. How did the members of the Azura sect know the exact location of test? Moreover, they even set up an ambush. Could it be that there's a traitor amongst us? What? There's a traitor? Clamorous noise instantly arose in the surroundings when these words were spoken. In an instant, all of them gazed at the crowd in the surroundings, and they revealed strange vigilance in their eyes. F*CK. Why the F*CK are you looking at me like that? Do you think I'm a traitor? What the fuck are you getting so worked up for? Did I say anything? You didn't say anything, but you're definitely suspecting me in your heart. Fuck you. I'm filled with rage right now, so I advise you not to offend me. It was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. Because they'd suffered a surprise attack from the Azura sect for no apparent reason, and coupled with the effects of their injuries, many of them were extremely sensitive. When one of them felt that there was a traitor amongst them, it instantly aroused doubt in their hearts. All of you stop arguing. Elder Hua's expression was gloomy, while flames of rage burned in his eyes. Don't doubt your companions at a time like this. The enemy's attack may come a second time. Aren't you creating opportunities for others by having internal strife now? Everyone had a cold expression on their faces. They had a belly full of anger, but they remained silent. If I find out who the traitor is, I'll definitely cut him into 8 pieces. A disciple with a fiery temper was still cursing. Elder Hua sighed helplessly and said, "Forget it. Let's consolidate the number of casualties first. Do you know how many people are missing from the heaven-dazzling platform?" Everyone looked around lazily. Soon after, a surprised voice rang out. Chu Hen seems to have disappeared. Oh, Junior Sister Red Lotus isn't here either. What's going on? Did something happen to the two of them? Impossible. Chu Hen is so strong. How could he die so easily? Hong Lian's cultivation isn't weak either. It's impossible for her to fall behind us. Could it be? In an instant, everyone seemed to have a flash of inspiration in their minds. Moreover, their gazes had become extremely strange. It can't be. Junior Sister Red Lotus has been in our sect for almost 10 years. It's absolutely impossible for her to be a spy from the Azura sect. I don't believe that Hong Lian is a spy either. They conversed in low voices. If Hong Lian wasn't a spy, then the other person had instantly become the target of suspicion. Could be Chu Hen? He was a new disciple this year, and something just happened to have happened during the exam. Coupled with the fact that Chu Hen had killed Hall disciple Meng Hong, crippled Hu Tong, and heavily injured Kong Bin and the others. From a certain perspective, it seemed like he was weakening the Thousand Crane sect strength. The atmosphere had become extremely strange. Even though no one said it out loud, all of them had started to suspect it. Ko Tianxin's eyes were surging with ghastly coldness as well, and he seemed to be in deep thought. Look, Chu Hen's back in Red Lotus. Just at that time, a loud cry came from the crowd. Everyone was shocked, and they looked towards the sky in the direction of the Sky Glory platform. They saw a young man and woman approaching from afar. It was none other than Chu Hen and Hong Lian. Everyone stood up and looked at them. Afterwards, Chu Hen and Hong Lian landed one after the other. Before they could even say anything, the two of them were stunned. Everyone looked at them with an indescribably strange gaze. To be more precise, the way they looked at Chu Hen was different. Chu Hen exchanged a glance with Hong Lian, and then he asked indifferently, "What? Where did the two of you go? In the next moment, a voice filled with pride, indifference, and even seemed to be questioning them. Ko Tianchun walked over to them first, and his eyes were icy cold. Sherwin Xing followed behind him and looked at them expectantly. In the face of Ko Tianchun's overbearing tone, Chu Hen's eyes could not help but flash with a cold light when he recalled how Ko Tianchun had taken him down a notch when he received the mission scroll before the exam. What does it have to do with you? Whoosh! Chu Hen's reply immediately caused a low uproar. It was the first time in history that a newcomer had dared to say something like that to a core disciple. Even though Chu Hen had defeated Kong Bin and taken the position of the leader of the Hall disciples, there was still quite a gap between him and a core disciple. Of course, in the eyes of the crowd, Chu Hen and Ko Tianchun's cultivation base and strength could not be compared. However, seeing Ko Tianchun's expression gradually darken, Hong Lian said, "Senior brother Ko, Chu Hen and I went after Langley." Went after Langley? Everyone was stunned. Langley was a core disciple of the Shura sect, yet these two dared to go after Langley alone. They were really bold. Oh? Ko Tianchun raised his eyebrows slightly, and there was a hint of mockery in his eyes. "You went after Langley? May I ask if you managed to catch up to him?" Hong Lian glanced at Chu Hen and continued. "Chu Hen caught up to him, but by the time I arrived, Langley had already escaped." Whoosh. As soon as these words were spoken, an inexplicable uproar broke out among the crowd. However, what surprised them was not that Chu Hen was able to make Langley escape, but something else. Ko Tian chuckled. His laughter was especially playful. He looked at Chu Hen and said frivolously, "In other words, you chased after Langley by yourself, and Hong Lian just happened to arrive when Langley was beaten away by you, am I right?" "What do you mean? Just say it. There's no need to beat around the bush." Chu Hen replied coldly. "All right, then I'll be frank." Ko Tianchun spread open his arms, and his voice was extremely sharp and domineering. "In the past, there has never been a single mishap during the 1,000 Crane Sect's recruitment test, yet you just had to suffer an ambush from the Shura sect this year. You're just a new disciple, yet you actually had the ability to crush the top 3 of the palace rankings. I can't help but wonder what sort of unspeakable background you have. Lastly, you said you went after Langley." Hee. Ko Tianchun laughed coldly and said, "According to my knowledge, Langley's cultivation is ranked second amongst the 7 ultimate geniuses, and his Shura blade technique is renowned throughout the 100 Kingdoms prefecture. All right, I'll say that you want to challenge Langley out of ignorance. But why did Langley just happen to have left when Hong Lian arrived? Did you really go after him, and you didn't have other intentions?" Ko Tianchun's words made sense. The scales in the hearts of everyone present immediately tilted. Many people looked at Chu Hen with a gaze that became even colder, and a ghastly cold light faintly surged in their eyes. In their opinion, Chu Hen did not go after Langley, but he was secretly communicating with him. After all, Blade Julang Li's strength was there for all to see. Just relying on Chu Hen to chase after him alone was simply courting death. As for chasing Langley away, that was even more impossible. However, Chu Hen's expression was especially calm. His pitch-black eyes were like well water without a single ripple. He was neither humble nor arrogant. Chu Hen looked at Ko Tianchun's sharp gaze and replied calmly, "Don't you suspect that I'm a spy from the Shura sect?" Ko Tianchun smiled as he replied, "Isn't that the case? Senior brother Ko, you've misunderstood." Hong Lian could not help but speak up for Chu Hen. She said without any hesitation, "Chu Hen is from the Saint Star dynasty. I met him 2 years ago when I was at the Imperial Martial Academy. I can guarantee that his background is clean, and he's definitely not related to the Shura sect at all." "Is that so?" "Yes." Hong Lian nodded solemnly and continued to say, "Earlier, Chu Hen was indeed fighting with Langley. I sensed a shocking energy fluctuation as I chased after them. If you don't believe me, you can ask Shilon. He was brought here by Shilon." At the mention of Shilon, everyone's gazes softened a little. Shilon was the goddess of their dreams in the hearts of countless male disciples in the 1,000 Crane sect. Most importantly, Shilan's younger brother had died at the hands of the Shura sect. She would absolutely not bring anyone related to the Shura sect into the Thousand Crane sect. When everyone spoke up to hear, the doubts in their hearts had lessened slightly. All right, let's put an end to this matter. Sherwin Shing took a few steps forward and nodded slightly. He said, "We'll investigate whether the Shura sect planted a mole in the sect. Now, return to the transfer station for the third test." However, Ko Tianqian's expression turned even gloomier. He said, "Both of you disobeyed orders earlier and acted on your own. I hereby announce that both of your test results this year are invalid." What? Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Their expressions changed again and again, and their eyes were filled with deep astonishment. The tense atmosphere, which had just eased a moment ago, instantly became anxious again. Their test results this year were invalid. It did not affect Hong Lian greatly. She would only be reduced to last year's result, and she would still be a Palace Hall disciple. However, it was a huge punishment for Chu Hen. Since Chu Hen was a new disciple this year, his test results would be invalid, and he would be reduced to his original state. In other words, he could not even be considered as an official disciple now that his test results were invalid. Elder Hua stepped forward and advised, "That's not good, right? It's enough to nullify the results of the last test." "Humph." Ko Tianqian crossed his arms in front of him and said in a heavy tone, "In many things, a series of serious consequences are often caused by disobeying orders, especially at that critical moment of life and death. If the two of you acted on your own, what if you were captured by the Shura sect's people? If you were captured by the Shura sect, they would have used this soul-controlling tactic to control your minds and send you back. That would have caused a second injury. For this reason, both of you know the severity of your action." Elder Hua frowned. He did not know how to refute Ko Tianqian. A faint layer of frost appeared on Chu Hen's face. He stared coldly at Ko Tianqian and said, "Are you trying to avenge a personal grudge? You can think whatever you want. I'm in charge of the test this year, so everything is up to me." Ko Tianqian still had a complacent expression on his face as he spoke in a domineering manner. Everyone present here was puzzled. No one had expected Ko Tianqian to be so furious. However, he was a core disciple after all, so no one dared to refute him. Of course, a portion of them felt it was a pity. There were also some who took pleasure in Ko Tianqian's misfortune. He was instantly reduced from a #1 disciple in the Palace Hall to an unofficial disciple. Such a punishment was unprecedented in the history of the Thousand Crane sect. Originally, everyone thought that Chu Hen would fly into a rage and fly into a rage. However, what made everyone surprised was that Chu Hen's expression was still rather calm. He actually smiled as he gazed at Ko Tianqian and said, "In other words, I'm no longer a disciple of the Thousand Crane sect." "That's right," Ko Tianqian replied lazily. He laughed with ridicule and said, "However, since it wasn't easy for you to come here, we'll still use the teleportation formation to send you back. There's no need for that." Chu Hen refused in a resolute manner. "There's no need to trouble all of you. I can walk out on my own." After that, Chu Hen gazed at Hong Lian. The latter's beautiful brows were knit together tightly, while her eyes were filled with a complicated expression and helplessness. "Can I trouble you with something?" Hong Lian was stunned. "Go on. Help me give this to Instructor Shilon. Tell her that it was Shichen's saber that ended it." As soon as he finished speaking, a ray of white light flashed, and then a cloth bag appeared in Chu Hen's hand. Everyone here was stunned. There was still blood seeping out from beneath the cloth bag, and they could see half a face that had died with everlasting regret through the cracks on the cloth bag. When they focused their gazes on that face, their expressions instantly changed drastically, and their countenances turned ghastly pale. My God! Chapter 454. That's Lang Li's head. Along with an exclamation that was filled with astonishment, the expressions of everyone present changed abruptly, and dense astonishment surged into their eyes. It was as if a bolt of lightning had exploded in their minds, and they felt extreme disbelief in their hearts. Chu Hen actually had the ability to kill Lang Li? All of them exchanged glances and were extremely astounded. In an instant, the matter of Chu Hen being suspected to be a spy from the Azura sect had been dispelled. The gazes they shot at each other had changed once more. The indifference and indifference from before had instantly transformed into deep reverence and fear. Ko Tianxin and the core disciples of Sherwin Star were visibly moved as well. Especially Ko Tianxin. His expression had silently turned cold. You? Hong Lian gazed at the cloth bag that Chu Hen passed over to her with shock, and the blood that faintly seeped out from it proved that Lang Li had just perished. In other words, Lang Li hadn't fled when she rushed over to the battlefield, but he'd already been killed by Chu Hen. Hong Lian's beautiful eyes opened wide while her red lips parted slightly. She'd truly never expected that Chu Hen would actually be able to end the battle and take Lang Li's life in such a short period of time. After all, Chu Hen was merely a rash kid with ordinary strength all those years ago in the imperial capital of the Sacred Star Dynasty. Now, the other party had already left her far behind. Hong Lian was truly unable to react to this sudden change of events. Help me apologize to teacher for being unable to become a disciple of the Thousand Crane sect. I'll come visit her when I have the time in the future. Chu Hen passed the cloth bag in his hand to Hong Lian, and then he turned around and left. Wait a moment. Right at this moment, Elder Hua hurriedly stopped Lang Li, and he spoke in a solemn tone. As an elder of the sect, I overrule the punishment Ko Tianxin gave you. Your results during the recruitment test this year are still in effect. Swoosh! All of them were stunned, and a wave of light exclamations arose. Elder Hua actually took the risk of offending Ko Tianxin in order to keep Chu Hen? Of course, under such circumstances, any elder that was willing to consider for the sake of the Thousand Crane sect would choose to do the same. Who was Lang Li? There was no one present who didn't know. If Chu Hen had the ability to kill him, then his strength was already on par with a core disciple of the Thousand Crane sect. Most importantly, Chu Hen was only a newcomer. He was not even 20 years old yet. His potential was absolutely enormous. If they lost such a person, it would be an immeasurable loss. On the other hand, if he were to join another sect, then the Thousand Crane sect's gains wouldn't make up for the losses. However, Chu Hen didn't even turn around when Elder Hua urged him to stay, and he merely turned around slightly and said, "Thank you for your good intentions, Elder Hua. I, Chu Hen, have always been accustomed to being idle. If it wasn't for Instructor Shi Lan's invitation, I wouldn't have intended to come to the Thousand Crane sect. I don't think the sect is suitable for me. I'll take my leave now." His tone was resolute. His attitude was resolute. Chu Hen had always been a person that could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. If Elder Hua had stood up for him in a righteous manner when Ko Tianxin said that he intended to nullify his results, then perhaps Chu Hen would have stayed. However, Elder Hua had waited until Chun Shi handed Lang Li's head over before he suddenly realized that Ko Tianxin's actions were inappropriate. Even though the weak were prey to the strong in this world, and only the strong were respected. However, it just so happened that Chu Hen refused it. It was the Thousand Crane sect that refused him today. Since he'd spoken, then he shouldn't regret it. After that, Chu Hen's gaze suddenly turned cold. He glanced at Ko Tianxin, who stood by Sherwin Xing's side, and then ghastly coldness surged out from within him. You can't do it more than 3 times. This is the 2nd time. If you offend me again, then I'll fucking kill you. You. His words were clear and forceful, and they were sharp like a sword. Especially the last few words, there was a dense coldness surging within the coldness. Everyone's expressions changed. Many of them were suppressed by the invisible, domineering aura Chu Hen emanated. If it was at any other time, then Chu Hen would definitely be laughed at and rolled their eyes at Ko Tianxin, and it was even to the extent that he would be cursed and cursed with disdain. However, Hong Lian was still holding Lang Li's head in her hand. Everyone couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. How terrifying would it be if Chu Hen got angry? Ko Tianxin's face was extremely gloomy, and it was covered in a layer of frost. Oomph. Could it be that you think you have a right to challenge me just because you defeated Lang Li? In terms of combat strength, Ko Tianxin was superior to Lang Li, so he wasn't frightened by Chu Hen's words. The corner of Chu Hen's lips curled into a cold and playful smile. He replied in a light tone, "You can try." After saying a few simple words, Chu Hen turned his head around. Then, under everyone's gazes that were filled with dense shock, he resolutely stepped into the air and left. Elder Hua raised his arm slightly, and his throat trembled a few times. However, he did not try to persuade him to stay in the end. Chu Hen's attitude was very firm. Even if Shilan was here, she probably wouldn't be able to persuade him to turn back. But then again, Ko Tianxin's actions just now were a little overboard. He was the one who forced Chu Hen to leave. The entire place was silent. Everyone's emotions were indescribably complicated. This year's sect exam was full of surprises. Too many unexpected things had happened. As he watched Chu Hen's silhouette disappear into the horizon, Ko Tianxin's eyes became even sharper and colder. Murderous intent surged between his brows. Swoosh! At this moment, a few young men and women walked over from the direction of the third assessment transfer station. "Wow, everyone's here." A sweet voice that was as crisp as a silver bell sounded from afar. Everyone instinctively looked up and saw a man and 5 women. They were none other than Fu Qin, Ji Shu, Nong Qi, Hua Shui, Lu Qi, and Qi Tong. The 6 of them had been working as a team since the first round of the exam. They overcame all the obstacles and made it to the last round of the exam. As they had to complete the missions one by one, it took them a lot of time to get here. But because Qin, Qi, Shu, and Hua each had different abilities and Lu Qi and Qi Tong had special bloodlines, the series of missions was not too difficult for their small team. They were all dressed neatly and did not look the least bit disheveled. "Where's Yaoti on platform? Is this it?" Hua Shui's eyes widened as she curiously scanned her surroundings. Looking at the people in front of her, many of them had injuries on their bodies. Hua Shui scratched her head and said, "Wow, the last round of assessment is so intense. Why are all of them so injured?" Fu Qin, Ji Shu, and Qi Tong were shocked as well. The news of the Shura sect's sneak attack had yet to reach the third round transfer station. The new palace disciples who came later did not know what happened. "It's too scary. Can I not participate in the ranking battle?" Hua Shui casually said to a veteran palace disciple next to her. The veteran palace disciple was annoyed and amused at the same time. She was still asking such a question at a time like this. However, he sighed when he saw Hua Shui's innocent face. He then answered helplessly, "Those who are ranked below 60 will be sent back to the inner court." "No way. Those who are ranked below 60 will be sent back?" Hua Shui pouted and looked at the jade tag in her hand. The words 101 were clearly engraved on it. Then, Hua Shui's eyes brightened. She quickly asked, "I'm a high-level tattoo master in the field of alchemy. Can I get extra points?" "Oh." As soon as these words came out, everyone cast astonished gazes over. Even the gloomy elder Hua's heart brightened. He walked over and said, "Little girl, you're an alchemy tattoo master?" "Yes." Hua Shui nodded obediently. Then, she stretched out 10 fingers and bent her left thumb, and a 9th rank one. "What?" Everyone was shocked again. Elder Hua raised his eyebrows and joy appeared on his face. "Good, very good. I'll give you special permission to become a palace disciple of our sect." "Really?" Hua Shui's eyes brightened. "That's right. What about them?" Hua Shui quickly pointed at Fu Qin, Ji Shu, and the rest behind her and said, "Senior sister Ji Shu is also a 9th rank high-level tattoo master. She specializes in formations. There's also my senior sister Nongqi. Her perception is super strong. Senior sister Fu Qin has reached the peak of the 3rd rank of the void-piercing realm. Can they all get extra points?" Hua Shui had directly told them all the secrets of the gang. Everyone was surprised and curious. Elder Hua was even more surprised. "You're all this year's newcomers?" "Yes." Good, huh?" Elder Hua said good twice in a row. Then, he laughed heartily and said, "I'll give you special permission to not participate in the final round of assessment. You'll be promoted to palace disciples directly." "Wow, that's great." Hua Shui clapped her hands happily and said with a little narcissism, "As expected, I'm born cute and I'm useful. I'm so cute that I can even skip the assessment." Fu Qin, Ji Shu, Qi Tong, and the rest were speechless. They were angry and amused at the same time. The surrounding disciples were also quite surprised by this. They wondered what year it was this year. So many new disciples actually broke into the palace disciple level. On the other side, Ko Tianqian and Shirwan Xing did not object either. With their eyesight, they could naturally see that these 6 people were extraordinary, especially Hua Shui and Ji Shu, 2 ninth-rank high-level tattoo masters. They were enough to hold up the signboard of this year's new disciples. The Thousand Crane sect had few tattoo masters to begin with. Now that there were 2 new tattoo masters with extraordinary potential, it was definitely a great help to the sect. Elder Hua's face revealed a joyful smile. Although Chu Hen had left, they had now recruited 6 new disciples with extraordinary potential and extremely high talent. This year's sect assessment was quite successful. However, at this moment, Hua Shui suddenly uttered a sentence out of the blue. Chapter 455. That's right, Uncle Elder. Have you seen Chu Hen? Did he come here? Hua Shui's sudden question caused Elder Hua's laughter to stop abruptly. At the same time, the hearts of the surrounding palace hall disciples were also shocked. Quite a few people also reacted one after another. It seemed that these few people had come together with Chu Hen. What's wrong, Uncle Elder? Did Chu Hen not make it to the last round of the test? Hua Shui continued when Elder Hua remained silent. Fu Qin, Qi Tong, and Lu Qi, who stood behind her, revealed puzzled expressions. It really shouldn't have been possible for Chu Hen not to have made it here. Elder Hua frowned slightly, and he answered in a slightly strange tone. Chu Hen has left. Left? Where'd he go? Did he return to the Thousand Crane sect? No. Elder Hua's expression was quite unnatural. He pondered for a moment before he looked at Hua Shui and said, during the last round of the test, Chu Hen acted on his own and made a mistake. He's been disqualified from the test. What? You drove Chu Hen away? Hua Shui's mouth opened slightly, and she frowned. On the other hand, Fu Qin, Ji Shu, Nong Qi, Qi Tong, and Lu Qi were surprised as well. This was absolutely something that they hadn't expected. Elder Hua was slightly embarrassed, and he could even sense the strange gazes from the others around him. How exactly did Chu Hen leave? Did the other party really commit a grave mistake? Everyone present was well aware that the reason why Elder Hua said this was to find an excuse to get out of this embarrassing situation. If he said that he drove Chu Hen away for no reason, then it would affect the Thousand Crane sect's reputation. Moreover, it would easily cause these outstanding new disciples to feel a sense of rejection. So, he could only say that it was Chu Hen who made a mistake. However, Hua Shui didn't seem to buy it, and she asked to the end, why exactly did you drive Chu Hen away? I already said that he acted on his own and didn't listen to orders. But isn't this a test? Is it wrong to act on his own? Why would he still need to listen to orders? Are you guys reasonable or not? You drove Chu Hen away for such a small matter? Elder Hua's face was cold, not knowing how to answer. Ko Tianqian then walked forward and said proudly, I was the one who nullified his results. Do you have any problem with that? The few of them were slightly stunned. In front of a core disciple, he would still be suppressed by the formless aura of the other party. Hua Shui pursed her lips and glared at him with dissatisfaction. Then why don't you tell me? Why did you cancel his test results? Do I need to repeat it a 3rd time? Ko Tianqian replied coldly. No need. Before Hua Shui could speak, Fu Qin, who was behind her, coldly rejected her. Senior sister for Qin? Stop it. Zither Master looked up coldly, and her cold temperament showed that she was a leader. She said to the chess player beside her, try to sense where Chu Hen is. Nongqi nodded. She formed a seal with her hands and closed her beautiful eyes. A strange energy fluctuation spread out from her body, and wisps of faint golden light patterns attached to her body like thin gauze. Then, the airflow in the space became turbulent, and a faint halo bloomed outside her body. Nongqi opened her beautiful eyes, opened her red lips slightly, and said with determination, in the southwest. Everyone was shocked, and they couldn't help but reveal surprise and astonishment. Just as Hua Shui had said, The opponent's perception was indeed astonishing. Chu-Hen had left towards the southwest direction just now. Then, Zithermaster raised her brows and said without hesitation, "Let's go." Yes. The few of them also flew up without hesitation and were about to leave. Wait. Elder Hua panicked when she saw this. She hurriedly stopped the four of them and tried to dissuade them. Why do you have to do this? Stay in the Thousand Cranes sect, and we will do our best to nurture you. There's no need. We're only here for Chu-Hen. As soon as she finished speaking, Zither, Ji-Shu, and Nongqi left in the air. Hua Shui didn't forget to glare fiercely at Ko Tianchun as she turned around and cursed. You big hammer! You're such a blind fellow. If you continue acting so aloof, the grass on your grave will grow a meter tall next year. You? Ko Tianchun's face was livid. He was just about to flare up when Hua Shui made a face and flew away hastily. Qi Teng and Lu Qi looked at each other and nodded resolutely when they saw Qin, Qi, Shu, and Hua leave successively. Everyone, I'm sorry. The Thousand Cranes sect is out of our league, and we'll be taking our leave now. Qi Teng and Lu Qi followed the footsteps of the four of them and left. In the blink of an eye, the six of them vanished into the horizon. Elder Hua felt like he'd gotten nothing in the end. They're gone. They're gone. He'd thought that these newcomers would be able to fill the gap left by Chu-Hen, but he hadn't expected that they would leave so decisively and not even look back. Chu-Hen, Qin, Qi, Shu, Hua, Qi Teng, Lu Qi. The 7 people with the best results during the newcomer exam this year, and the 7 people with the most potential had left. Everyone here was unable to express their feelings. At this moment, Elder Hua was the most worried that they'd joined another sect or power. What would the consequences be if they joined a power that stood against the Thousand Crane sect? When he thought up to here, Elder Hua couldn't help but look at Ko Tianchun. The latter's expression turned slightly cold, and he flicked his sleeve and walked away. Around half an hour later, the higher-ups of the Thousand Crane sect, led by Duan Qingshan, arrived here to provide assistance. Duan Qingshan understood the entire situation as soon as he finished treating the injuries of the Hall disciples. At the same time, when he heard that the Azura sect's core disciple, Absolute Blade Langley, had been killed by Chu-Hen, he was extremely shocked. However, at the same time, he felt that it was a pity that Chu-Hen had to leave. Grand Elder, Tianchun was just impulsive. Please forgive me, Grand Elder. Sherwin Xing pleaded with Duan Qingshan in the southernmost pergola of the 3rd exam's transfer station. Ko Tianchun, who was standing to the side, seemed to be a little unconvinced. His face was cold, and he remained silent. Duan Qingshan placed his hands behind his back and stared fiercely at the 2 people in front of him. Tianchun, you've always been the steadiest among the 5 core disciples. You've really disappointed me this time. Ko Tianchun still remained silent. He seemed to be willing to accept any punishment, but he definitely wouldn't admit his mistake. Duan Qingshan shook his head helplessly and said, "Both of you can return. Ask Yin Hanlu and Shengda to come here immediately." Yin Hanlu was the 7 absolute prodigies formation absolute and a core disciple of the Thousand Crane sect. Shengda was one of the 5 core disciples. Oh. Sherwin Xing was slightly puzzled and said, "Haven't we finished our work here? Why did you ask them to come here?" Without waiting for Duan Qingshan's reply, Ko Tianchun, who had been silent all this while, said coldly, "The Azura sect's people have other motives for appearing here." Sherwin Xing was stunned. He had a surprised expression on his face. Grand Elder Duan Qingshan glanced at him and said indifferently, "Continue." Ko Tianchun raised his head slightly as a hint of brilliance flashed in his eyes. If the Azura sect's main motive is to attack us, they wouldn't have brought so few people. To the Azura sect's people, this is definitely the best opportunity to attack us. As long as they kill all the Palace Hall's disciples, we'll definitely suffer a great loss. However, they didn't do that. It seems like they're only here to cause destruction and kill as many as they can. This is quite contradictory to the Azura sect's usual style of killing everyone. Ko Tianchun paused for a moment before he continued to say, "Therefore, There's a 90% chance that the Azura Sex people came to the Mang Mountain Forest with other motives. As for the sneak attack on us, there's an 80% to 90% chance that the Azura Sex people came to Mang Mountain Forest with other motives. This also means that after they attracted the beast horde, they did not continue to fight. This is because they need to preserve their strength to deal with other situations. After listening to Ko Tianxin's explanation, Grand Elder Duan Qingshan's face revealed a hint of admiration. When you're not acting on impulse, you're indeed smarter than most people. Duan Qingshan had always admired Ko Tianxin. The latter was not only talented and had a strong cultivation base, but most importantly, he was smart. This was why Duan Qingshan was at ease when Ko Tianxin and Shi Wenxing were in charge of the assessment. However, no matter how smart a person was, there would still be times when they were muddle-headed. Of course, the sudden appearance of the Azura Sex people was unexpected. The two of them could not be blamed for being ambushed by the enemy. The other party's mistake was that they had lured away Chu Hen, causing the quality of this year's newcomers to drop by an unknown amount. Ko Tianxin gritted his teeth and said, "Grand Elder, leave the task of investigating the Azura Sex motive to the two of us. There's no need for Yin Han Lu and Shengda to come." Shi Wenxing also spoke up. "That's right. Just treat it as a chance for us to make up for our mistakes." Duan Qingshan narrowed his eyes and asked in a low voice, "Can you guarantee that you won't make any more mistakes?" "Absolutely not," Shi Wenxing said. Ko Tianxin nodded slightly. "I'll make sure you're satisfied." After a brief moment of consideration, Duan Qingshan finally nodded. "Forget it. There's no time to lose. Bring 10 Hall disciples with you and enter the Mang Mountain Forest to investigate. Remember, report to me immediately if there's any movement." "I understand. I believe I don't need to remind you what you need to pay attention to when dealing with the Azura sect. Also, if you encounter Chu Hen and the others along the way, try to salvage the situation as much as possible." Shi Wenxing nodded in agreement. Chapter 456. The boundless Mount Mang forest was like a dark green sea of trees when looked down from the sky. The undulating peaks and ridges were like the waves of the bluish-green waves. Moreover, the numerous demon beasts hidden in the mountain range were like all sorts of strange sea creatures. Their spirits were beautiful, grotesque rocks were rugged, clouds and mist lingered around them, and everything was natural, fully displaying the exquisite craftsmanship of the Creator. "Nong Qi, have you found Chu Hen?" Jishu asked gently. Nong Qi frowned slightly, and there was a helpless expression on her pretty face. "Chu Hen is moving too quickly. He's almost out of my range of perception. I can only roughly determine his direction, but I can't determine his exact location." Everyone frowned slightly, and they couldn't help but complain about Ko Tianxin's actions. They thought they could rest peacefully in the Thousand Cranes sect for a while, but they didn't expect that they would have to run around again so soon. Hua Shui pouted and complained. "Really, if Chu Hen had returned to Mount Kunliu with us earlier, then there wouldn't be so much trouble." "You're still talking. You insisted on standing on Chu Hen's side earlier." Jishu replied. Hua Shui pursed her lips and feigned ignorance. Did I? Of course you did. You're always so playful." The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener did. From their conversation, Qi Teng and Lu Qi could roughly tell that they wanted to take Chu Hen to another place. But because of Chu Hen's refusal, they could only follow them helplessly. Even though they were puzzled, it wasn't appropriate for them to ask questions under such circumstances. "We've lost the target." Suddenly, Nong Qi's deep voice caused everyone's hearts to clench involuntarily. Fu Qin frowned slightly and asked coldly, "What's going on?" "The energy fluctuations in the area ahead are too chaotic. It's affecting my perception." "The energy fluctuations are too chaotic?" Everyone's eyes were filled with astonishment. Qi Teng's eyes narrowed slightly as he replied in a deep voice, "Miss Fu Qin, ahead of us is the inner region of the Mang Mountain Forest. Demonic beasts run rampant, and there are many dangerous places. The degree of danger here is even greater than the 10,000 Beast Ridge. We should be careful. In the 100 Kingdoms province, the Mang Mountain Forest was definitely one of the top death zones. The 10,000 Beast Ridge was famous because it was rumored to be a 1,000-year demon sealing ground. However, the Mang Mountain jungle was truly dangerous. The number of demonic beasts living here was much more than the number in the 10,000 Beast Ridge. There were even rumors that a terrifying existence at the level of a Beast King had appeared in the towering Mang Mountain. A Beast Emperor was above a Beast King. It was definitely the most powerful existence in the 100 Nations Prefecture, and no one in the world dared to set foot here. Sirs, he turned around to gaze at Chi Tong and Lu Qi, and he said, I'm very sorry for making you leave the Thousand Crane sect. I hope that the two of you will stop here, and we will go look for Chu Hen. Although Fu Qin's personality was rather cold, he was definitely a person who could clearly distinguish between gratitude and grudges. The matter of looking for Chu Hen did not have much to do with Chi Tong and Lu Qi. Coupled with the fact that the path ahead was filled with danger, the four of them would definitely feel bad if something happened to them. Chi Tong smiled and said with a serious expression, Miss Fu Qin, you're being too polite. Since we voluntarily left the Thousand Crane sect, we naturally won't regret it. Chu Hen is also a friend of mine and Lu Qi's. Our first priority is to find him, and we'll talk about other things in the future. That's right, Lu Qi chimed in. We won't leave. Moreover, one more person means more strength. I believe the two of us will be able to help. Yes, yes, yes. Hua Shui hurriedly nodded and said pitifully, I don't want to be separated from Lu Qi so soon as well. Lu Qi smiled faintly. Her innocent and harmless face and Hua Shui's pure and cute face could be called a pair of cute sisters. Fu Qin pondered for a moment before she nodded in the end. Since the two of them had already spoken to this extent, it would seem a little unreasonable if he were to reject them again. Nong Qi, where did Chu Hen's aura disappear last? Fu Qin turned around and asked. Over there. Nong Qi pointed in a rough direction. Everyone looked up and saw the distant sky was gray, as if it was shrouded in a fog that would not disperse for 1,000 years. Mountains rose and fell, and the depths of the Mang Mountain forest gave off a gloomy feeling that even the sun could not shine. The ancient area emitted an innate, mysterious aura. At this moment, Chu Hen was wandering aimlessly in the depths of the Mang Mountain forest. Because he was not familiar with the terrain, Chu Hen finally understood how terrifying this death zone was. Not only did he encounter attacks from various demonic beasts along the way, but for such a long time, he always felt like he was walking in a maze. He flew over one mountain range after another, crossed over one river after another, and from beginning to end, it was as if he was going in circles in the same place. The sky was getting darker, and it was almost evening. Chu Hen thought to himself that he had to find a place to rest first. However, at this moment, Chu Hen's eyes lit up. He suddenly found a faint red light floating and flickering in the sky. Looking over, the red light actually originated from a deep and gloomy mountain valley. What a frightening, evil aura! Chu Hen frowned slightly, and his eyes revealed a hint of caution. Even though it was several miles away, he could still vaguely feel the evil aura that originated from the valley. Needless to say, it was probably a place of great danger. To go or not to go? After a brief hesitation, Chu Hen's eyes flashed with determination. He immediately moved and directly flew up, sweeping toward the area where the red light flashed. The closer he got, the more powerful the evil aura became. The surrounding area was dead silent, and there was not even a small beast or poisonous insect in the lush forest. Chu Hen cautiously approached, and a hint of wariness appeared between his brows. When Chu Hen reached the peak of a mountain at the edge of the valley, he suddenly felt a bone-chilling cold wave wash over him. The icy aura directly penetrated Chu Hen's skin, penetrating straight into his bones like an icicle. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly. The Yuan Dan in his body revolved, and the true Yuan flowed through his major meridians. The warm energy flowed like a spring, expelling the cold in his body. Soon after, his gaze shifted to the valley below. In the deep and vast valley, the first thing that came into view was the scattered corpses of demonic beasts. This is Chu Hen's pupils shrank slightly, and his face revealed some shock. Sweeping his gaze across, the corpses of the demonic beasts lying on the ground had basically all reached the level of Beast King, and there were even a few high-level Beast Kings that were above level 6. Reticulated saber-toothed lion, nine-clawed mountain, splitting eagle, ghost-faced hoe. Chu Hen was even more shocked. These three were all level 7 Beast Kings. How could so many powerful and terrifying demonic beasts have died here? With deep shock and bewilderment, Chu Hen's gaze continued to probe ahead. Soon after, a strange pool of blood appeared in his line of sight. The pool of blood was located in the center of the valley, and also in the center of the many demonic beast corpses. The blood pool was constructed in the shape of a six-pointed star, and it was about 30 meters wide from the front to the back. The surrounding bricks and stone floor were flashing with strange runes and secret scrolls. The ancient blood-colored characters were extremely strange. Soon after, Chu Hen discovered that there was actually a person standing next to the pool of blood. It was a person with messy hair and a sloppy appearance. He looked like a beggar, but his entire body was emitting an evil and murderous aura. What was even more surprising was that the person was holding 3 thick black chains in his hands. The other end of the chains was immersed in the pool of blood. If one were to look closely, one would discover that there were 3 armored evil beings in the pool of blood that the chains were immersed in. These 3 evil beings were all humans, and their necks were immersed in the pool of blood. Only their heads were left outside. Their expressions were wooden, and their eyes were wide open like wooden puppets without any luster. It's him? Chu Hen's heart skipped a beat, and a look of astonishment appeared on his face. That person was none other than the Avenger known as the Devil Dweller, Tuoba Shah. Previously, when he was in Song City, he had met him for the first time. Then, at the 10,000 Beast Ridge, Chu Hen had witnessed Tuoba Shah fighting a group of black-clothed men. Later on, Chu Hen had even saved Tuoba Shah once. Before Tuoba Shah left, he gave Chu Hen a keepsake and said that he could do one thing for Chu Hen or kill a person. He did not expect to meet Tuoba Shah here. Chu Hen was secretly surprised. However, Chu Hen did not have any intention of showing himself. He was still observing from where he was. The 3 evil beings immersed in the pool of blood were the enemies who killed Tuoba Shah's youngest daughter. The enemy used a terrifying evil art to refine them into powerful weapons. Thus, the 3 of them had to suffer the pain of being enslaved forever. At this moment, what was Tuoba Shah's goal? Time passed by minute, and in the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. The demonic beasts became more active at night, and the roars of unknown beasts came from deep within the mountains. This valley was still especially quiet, and the atmosphere was strange and chilly. Gurgle, gurgle, the blood pool in the shape of a hexagram kept bubbling, and a dense red mist of blood rose. But at this moment, Tuoba Shah's eyes under his scattered hair suddenly froze, and his hands began to form all kinds of complicated hand seals. As the hand seals continued to change, the blood pool exploded with even more powerful energy waves. Buzz, buzz. With the blood pool as the center, lines of strange, crisscrossing runes quickly extended in all directions. In just a blink of an eye, the entire blood pool seemed to have been spread out like a blood net. The mysterious runes were like the ancient characters, very strange. In an instant, the blood in the pool began to boil. Especially the surging energy quickly rushed toward the center, and the dull eyes of the 3 evil beings suddenly shone with a scarlet light. Chapter 457. Shrill howls, like those of a devil, suddenly reverberated from the mouths of the 3 evil beings. The ear-piercing howls were abnormally frightening in the valley, like the cries of 100 ghosts. It made people's scalps go numb and chills run down their spines. Goosebumps rose all over their bodies. Tuoba Shah, who was at the edge of the blood pool, continuously formed all kinds of strange hand seals. The blood-colored runes around the blood pool spread out like a blood net, flashing with strange patterns of light. The blood pool's water boiled as if it was boiling, and the surging energy surged towards the 3 evil creatures. A dense evil aura was constantly being released, and the three evil creatures' pupils were surging with a scarlet light. At the same time, strange dark red blood patterns appeared on their faces, a dense blood mist, and a strange blood glow. It made this valley seem abnormally evil, especially with the corpses of the demonic beasts lying on the ground. This scene could not help but make people think of the horrifying scenes of Azura Hell. Chu Hen stood where he was, secretly observing the scene in front of him, feeling the evil aura of the three evil beings getting stronger and stronger. Chu Hen wondered if Tuoba Shah was refining them right now. Time continued to pass quietly. The valley, which should have been pitch black, was now filled with the red glow of the blood pool. Almost the entire valley was covered in a bloody shadow. After an unknown amount of time, the three evil beings finally stopped their mournful howls. The boiling blood pool also gradually calmed down, and the strange patterns of light around the blood pool quickly disappeared like a sponge absorbing water. Swoosh! Tuoba Shah shook the iron chain in his hand. Boom! A red rain of light exploded in the blood pool, and the three legless evil beings instantly flew out of the pool and landed on the shore. The bodies of these three legless evil creatures were emitting a demonic red glow, and a thick evil aura lingered around their bodies, as if a bloody mist was churning. Immediately after, the evil aura also retracted. The three evil beings once again became as stiff and lifeless as puppets, but the difference was that their pupils were still blood red, and it sent chills down people's spines. Come out, Tuoba Shah said in a low but powerful voice. Swoosh! In the next instant, Chu Hen flew down in a flash and landed beside the pool of blood. Senior Tuoba. Chu Hen cupped his fists slightly. His attitude was amiable, neither servile nor overbearing. Why are you here? Tuoba Shah asked casually. I happened to pass by. Tuoba Shah did not doubt him and continued. Have you thought about what you want me to do? Or do you want me to kill someone for you? Chu Hen was startled at first, and then he shook his head and said with a smile, Senior, there's no need to worry about this. It was just a slight effort on my part, and I've never thought of asking for any repayment from Senior. From the beginning to the end, Chu Hen's eyes were calm, and he didn't avoid them at all. Tuoba Shah's gaze softened a little as he said, It's easy to form a grudge, but it's hard to repay a favor. Tuoba Shah, don't know when my corpse will be exposed in the wilderness. I don't want to owe someone a favor after I die. Chu Hen secretly sighed, and a complicated look appeared on his face. Then, he changed the topic and said, By the way, why are you here, Senior? To refine a blood vessel. Tuoba Shah answered the other party's question quite straightforwardly. Chu Hen's eyelids twitched. It was just as he thought. At the same time, Chu Hen sighed in admiration. The blood artifact was most likely refined by the blood essence of all the demonic beasts in the entire valley and gathered it in the pool of blood. Then he used a powerful secret technique to refine and cultivate it. Such extravagance could not be said to be small. Do you have a weapon that you need to refine? Tuoba Shah suddenly asked. What? Chu Hen couldn't react for a moment. Tuoba Shah pointed at the scarlet blood pool and said, There's still half of the essence blood in this blood pool that can still be used. I can help you refine it, oh? Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and he revealed a look of surprise. Want to take up Senior's time? It's fine. Tuoba Shah waved his hand and said, This pool of essence blood is a waste. Rather than letting it evaporate, it's better for you to use it. Tuoba Shah didn't think about killing so many beasts before. As long as he collected enough fierce energy to refine it, it would be fine. However, there were too many beasts in Mount Mang. Every time he killed a beast, the thick smell of blood would attract other beasts. After a while, Tuoba Shah could only kill all the beast kings within a radius of 200 to 300 miles and use them to refine a blood vessel. With so much essence blood, only about half of it was left. He didn't expect Chu Hen to appear here at this time. This could be considered fate. If that's the case, then I thank Senior for your kindness. Chu Hen didn't refuse. He moved his palm and took out the limitless Fong first. Thank you, Senior. Tuoba Shah glanced at the limitless Fong and replied, "This saber's level isn't high enough. I can refine other weapons. Not high enough?" The corner of Chu Hen's eye twitched. What a guy. The limitless Fong, ranked 19th on the spiritual weapon list, actually said its level wasn't high enough. Chu Hen subconsciously glanced at the blood weapon refined by the three-headed legless evil creature. Just what level had this strange weapon refined from the body of a human reached? However, it was worth confirming that this blood vessel was on a different level from the limitless Fong in terms of aura alone. Coupled with Tuoba Shah's super strength, this item was most likely a holy weapon. Even if it wasn't, it wouldn't be too far off. Then, Chu Hen took out two more spiritual weapons. One was the Demon Punisher Spear, and the other was the spoils of war from Lang Li, the blood-colored scimitar. Will these three spiritual weapons do? Chu Hen asked. Tuoba Shah raised his eyebrows and went into deep thought. After thinking for a while, he said coldly, "Which two do you usually use?" Chu Hen froze again. He pointed at the Demon Punisher Spear and the Limitless Fong and said, "These two. Then I'll take them. As for the scimitar, you won't feel bad if I destroy it, right?" Destroy it. Chu Hen was even more surprised. He asked in confusion why. Use the weapon to sacrifice the weapon. Use the spirit to sacrifice the spirit. Tuoba Shah's throat moved slightly as he spat out a few words. Chu Hen nodded and looked at him. He blurted out, "This sacrificial technique that uses the spirit of the weapon as a guide to sharpen the blade?" Tuoba Shah was slightly surprised. "You know about it?" Chu Hen smiled and shook his head. "No, I've only heard of it." "Then there's no need for me to explain it to you in detail. To put it simply, use this scimitar as a sacrifice, then use the essence blood of the beast kings in this pool to nourish and refine it. This will completely release the power of your two spiritual weapons." Tuoba Shah roughly explained. Chu Hen nodded without hesitation. "Then let's do as you say, Senior." Without any hesitation, Tuoba Shah separated a bit of true yuan from his body and lifted the three spiritual weapons in Chu Hen's hands. Swoosh! Then, the three weapons flew towards the center of the blood pool. Buzz, buzz! The three weapons floated above the blood pool. The Demon Punisher Spear was on the left, the Limitless Fong was on the right, and the blood-colored scimitar was in the center. As if sensing the power of the three weapons, the blood pool that had yet to completely calm down began to become restless again. Bubbles kept coming out, and the dense blood energy rose like a fog. Tuoba Shah's eyes turned cold. He raised his hand and formed a few seals. In an instant, strange runes began to flicker around the pool of blood. Buzz, strands of red light surged out of the blood pool like vines and wrapped around the three weapons like silk. The three spiritual weapons began to emit a faint blood light, especially the scimitar in the middle. It was so bright that it looked like it was dripping blood. Zung! Suddenly, there was a loud metallic sound in the air. The scimitar in the middle suddenly shook violently, as if it was struggling to break free. The restless energy fluctuation was very extreme. Rumble. However, at this moment, a blood-colored water curtain suddenly rose from the blood pool below. The blood-colored water curtain directly wrapped around the scimitar. This scene was like a weak lamb being swallowed by a giant beast from hell. The scimitar, which was being swallowed by the blood water, continued to shake violently. Strange light patterns continuously shot out from within. Immediately after, Tuoba Shah formed a series of seals. Together with a strange and powerful force, the blood water that wrapped around the scimitar dragged it back into the blood pool. Buzz, buzz! In the next moment, a powerful red halo spread out from the center of the pool, sweeping in all directions. A bone-chilling cold current surged and rose between the heavens and the earth. Under Chu Hen's astonished gaze, the curved blade was like a piece of iron that had fallen into magma, melting in extremely fast speed. Along with the destruction of the scimitar, the huge energy contained in the blood pool became even more shocking. In an instant, a blood net spread out in all directions with the blood pool as the center. The mysterious runes and light patterns passed by Chu Hen and Tuoba Shah's feet like cracks on the ground. In the blink of an eye, they covered an area of nearly 100 meters. The blood pool boiled. Following that, countless blood-colored light beams rose up, turning into twisting cyclones that wrapped around the demon Punisher spear and the limitless Fong. Once they came into contact with the foreign energy, the two spiritual weapons did not reject it at all. Instead, they seemed to be especially happy. They were like two sponges that absorbed the powerful energy in the blood pool. Chu Hen watched quietly from the side, still amazed in his heart. Chapter 458. In the deep and quiet valley, a thick blood-colored light shot into the sky. Corpses of demonic beasts surrounded the blood pool in the center. Above and below the blood pool, a strange blood-colored net of light spread out. Like ancient characters beside the blood pool, Tuoba Shah deduced a mysterious hand-sealed technique from time to time. Chu Hen stood beside Tuoba Shah and was secretly surprised. He wondered just who this Tuoba Shah was. Not only was his cultivation so high, but he also had such a profound sacrificial refining technique. Buzz, the blood pool's water was boiling like boiling water. Endless light patterns rose from the pool, intertwining on the spear and the limitless tooth like blood-colored vines, then surging into the weapons. The energy ripples from the two spiritual weapons became stronger and stronger. Chu Hen could clearly feel the energy within them growing rapidly. At this moment, Chu Hen was even more excited. How high would the grade of these two spiritual weapons rise after the sacrificial refining? A night flew by. Early in the morning, a white mist rose in the quiet valley. Morning dew fell on the clothes, and the air was slightly cold. Boom! Suddenly, there was a violent tremor in the air, and a powerful force swept out in all directions. A surging force that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas burst out from the two weapons above the blood pool. In an instant, the blood pool surged like waves, and a red rain flew everywhere. Streaks of bright light shot into the sky, and the tsunami-like energy quickly surged into the demon Punisher spear and the limitless tooth. Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and his face revealed a look of surprise. Tuoba Shah shot out a few light patterns in an orderly manner and yelled with a deep voice, "Collect!" Buzz, the blood-colored whirlpool around the two spiritual weapons, quickly retracted into the weapons, and the chaotic air flow gradually calmed down. The mysterious talismans around the blood pool once again passed under the two's feet, retracting at a speed visible to the naked eye. The sacrificial refining is over. As Tuoba Shah's voice fell, the many blood runes that were leaking out immediately disappeared and hid between the heavens and earth. Then, Chu Hen moved his palm, and a suction force was released. Swish! The demon Punisher spear and limitless Fong left behind a series of afterimages in the air before landing steadily in Chu Hen's hands. As soon as the spirit tool entered his hand, a chilling sensation spread from his palm. Chu Hen looked at these two weapons in amazement. The demon Punisher spear was surrounded by circles of red light patterns, like a strange scarlet flame rising up, biting cold and domineering. The black warblade, limitless Fong, was also swallowing and spitting out a red brilliance that fluctuated between thick and faint. It was so sharp that it could pierce one's heart. If one were to observe carefully, one would notice that there was a faint gray glow that was as thin as gossamer threads intertwined within the red glow. Chu Hen was both surprised and delighted. He casually thrust out the demon Punisher spear in his hand. Buzz! The piercingly cold, domineering aura caused the space to tremble. A red light rose from the body of the spear, and a new and fierce aura was released. Chu Hen's complexion changed slightly. Following that, a mass of black quintessential essence surged out of his body, immediately suppressing the blood aura emitted by the demon Punisher spear. On the side, a hint of surprise flashed through Tuoba Shah's eyes. "I was just worried that you wouldn't be able to adapt to the newly merged violent aura. Looks like I was worrying too much. It's all right. I'm still a little rusty at the moment." I should be able to return to normal in a few days, Chu Hen replied. Tuoba Shah nodded slightly and said, After all, this sacrificial art uses the essence blood of many beast kings as the main source of energy for forging. Therefore, these two spirit tools of yours have a bit more of the vicious aura of demonic beasts than before. For ordinary people, if they can't suppress this vicious aura, they will instead suffer the backlash of the spirit tool's power. Chu Hen nodded, indicating that he understood. This wasn't a big problem for him. The chaotic body, the sacred demonic pupil body, any bloodline boundary was enough to suppress the vicious aura of demonic beasts. The more he looked at the two spirit tools in his hands, the more satisfied Chu Hen became, especially the limitless Fong, which had turned from black to dark red. The sharp blade flashed with a cold light that made people's hearts palpitate. This kind of sharpness had never been seen before. I believe that the limitless Fong can be ranked in the top 10 of the spirit tool ranking. Chu Hen muttered to himself. Not just top 10? Tuoba Shah said lightly. This spear can be ranked in the top 10. As for this blade, it can be ranked in the top 5 without a problem. Top 5? Chu Hen's heart lit up, and his eyes flashed with surprise. However, he quickly calmed down. One should know that this sacrificial refining technique not only gathered the blood essence of many beast kings, but also used a powerful curved saber spirit weapon as an offering. Then, it was personally refined by a powerhouse with a profound cultivation base like Tuoba Shah. With the combination of many factors and conditions, it was not impossible for the Sun Luo Fong's strength to be on par with the top 5 spirit weapons on the spirit weapon ranking. Then he looked at the pool of blood. At this moment, he could not feel any ripples of power at all. The dark red blood looked like a pool of stagnant water. Apart from being shocked, Chu Hen was filled with gratitude. Thank you for your help, Senior. No problem. Tuoba Shah raised his hand slightly, his voice still low and indifferent. Since the sacrificial art is over, I will leave first. May I know where Senior is going? Do you need me to accompany you? Although Tuoba Shah still owed him a favor, Tuoba Shah had upgraded 2 of his weapons to such a high level, so he should at least thank him before leaving. However, Tuoba Shah did not buy Chu Hen's kindness. The aura he emitted was still cold. He grabbed the 3 chains at the side, and the chains collided with each other, making a heavy sound. I have always been a loner. Also, if you need me to do something for you, tell me as soon as possible. I, Tuoba Shah, have never owed anyone a favor. Chu Hen still wanted to say something, but Tuoba Shah had already ordered the 3 evil beings to turn around and leave. The 3 legless evil creatures moved forward on their knees. The sound of the heavy chains was very clear. Tuoba Shah seemed to be walking slowly, but in the blink of an eye, he was already hundreds of meters away. From beginning to end, he did not look back. His cold back was lonely and desolate. Looking at the others gradually fading back, Chu Hen sighed deeply. In Tuoba Shah's heart, there seemed to be only hatred, and only hatred supported him all the way. Even though he was refining the weapons with the essence blood of the Beast Kings, it was also because he needed power for revenge. Chapter 459. The valley was quiet and cold in the early morning. As he watched Tuoba Shah's figure disappear into the morning mist and the clanking sounds of the chains getting further and further away, Chu Hen's heart was filled with gratitude. But at the same time, there was a faint heaviness in his heart. However, this heaviness was quickly replaced with joy by the substantial increase in the power of the 2 spiritual artifacts. However, at this moment, a strange energy wave suddenly surged out from within Chu Hen's body. Chu Hen frowned slightly. His divine sense intersected with the energy aura, and he said unhappily, "What's wrong with you now?" "Oomph." The sacred wing heavenly flame bird's frivolous laughter rang out. "Damn, brat. Do you want your demon pupils to break through to 4 stars? Chu Hen's eyes lit up. He raised his eyebrows and said, "What's wrong with you? Or are you trying to play some trick again?" Just tell me if you want it or not. Isn't that obvious?" I sensed a mottled, chaotic energy in the northwest direction. "One of them is an energy source that you and I can use," Chu Hen sneered disdainfully. Are you sure you're not messing with me? It's up to you whether you believe it or not. Once you pass this village, you won't be able to find it again. The demonic energy contained in that energy source doesn't seem weak. It's enough for you to break through to 4 stars, the sacred wing heavenly flamebird said. Chu Hen rubbed his nose. After a brief moment of thought, he smiled indifferently and said, I can't be bothered with you. However, immediately after, Chu Hen once again abruptly followed up with a question. Where is the specific location? You bastard brat. After that, Chu Hen left the valley. However, what surprised him was that the entire Mang Mountain forest was shrouded in a white mist. As far as the eye could see, everything was dark and gloomy, covering the sky and the earth. Not even a ray of sunlight could penetrate through. Where was north, south, east, west? Chu Hen was a little stunned. The scene in front of him was even more illusory than an illusion. Fine dust and mist floated in the air, and his vision was limited to 100 meters. The undulating mountain range was faintly discernible in the fog, like a ferocious dragon crawling on the ground, giving people a feeling that it was difficult to move an inch. Which way is the northwest? Chu Hen asked. Look for it yourself. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow replied lazily. The corner of Chu Hen's eye twitched involuntarily. Look for your aunt. You can't even see the sun. Who knows how to get to the northwest? Idiot, are you going to tell me or not? Beg me. If you beg me, I'll tell you. I beg you. Your ancestral grave has been dug up. For the next 4 hours, Chu Hen walked around aimlessly. In the end, the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow couldn't stand it anymore and told him where the northwest was. As Chu Hen went deeper into the Mang Mountain forest, the fog became thicker. The higher the altitude, the whiter it was, as if it was surrounded by clouds. Towards this famous forbidden area of death, no matter how strong a person's cultivation was, they should still have a bit of reverence in their heart. Chu Hen naturally understood this principle as well. He landed in the forest below in a flash and stepped on the branches of the trees to move forward on foot. The dense fog enveloped the lush forest, giving people a dreamlike feeling. From time to time, 1 or 2 powerful demonic beasts would rush out from the sides of the forest, or a few small beasts that had lost their way and knocked their heads. Not only did the fog obstruct Chu Hen's vision, but it also greatly limited his perception. Under this kind of situation, Chu Hen's forward speed was a lot slower than normal. At this moment, on the other side of the forest, bang, with a dull sound, a demonic beast that looked like a wild boar and was covered in spiky scales was sent flying by a broadsword that spat out golden light. That demonic beast emitted a miserable shriek in midair. The scales on its body were shattered, and its bones were completely shattered. Immediately, it heavily smashed onto the ground and no longer moved. Damn, these blind beasts. The owner of the broadsword was a tall young man. He cursed coldly, then turned back to look at the area behind him. Why don't any of you come and help me? Over there, a dozen young men and women were sitting together and chatting. One of them, a fair-skinned young woman, laughed lightly and said, Yi Tai, you're suited for this kind of thing. You're simple-minded, but your limbs are well-developed. The crowd roared with laughter. Oomph. The man called Yi Tai snorted coldly and replied with some dissatisfaction. You speak as if you're very great. Do you dare to fight with me? 30 moves at most. I won't even have time to make you cry. TCH, what's the use of a man like you competing with a weak woman like me? Do you have the ability to compete with Senior Brother Song? You'll kneel in less than 3 moves, right? Big Brother Song. The woman blinked her eyes and turned to look at a young man on her left. This young man had a heroic aura. His shoulders were broad, and he was handsome. The corner of his mouth was slightly raised, and there was a faint, cynical smile on it. I only know Big Brother Song is long and Big Brother Song is short. My mind is filled with Big Brother Song. Yi Tai muttered softly as he walked to the side of the crowd and sat down. That's right. The woman shook her head proudly and continued to attack him. If you're so capable, change the name of Song Yuanja from the 7 absolutes to your name, Yi Tai. Then, I'll worship you. Little one, don't make things difficult for Yi Tai. When he becomes one of the 7 absolutes, there'll be no hope for him in this lifetime. Ha ha! The crowd roared with laughter again. However, there was a young figure standing on the trunk of a towering tree 7 to 8 meters behind the crowd. It was a stark contrast to the cheerful atmosphere here. It was a beautiful woman with an otherworldly temperament and a beautiful face. She was like a fairy. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was a peerless beauty that could cause the downfall of a city or nation. Her snow-white skin seemed to be so delicate that it could be broken by the slightest breeze. Her soft and beautiful long hair scattered over her shoulders. She leaned against the tree trunk and sat diagonally on the tree trunk. Her pair of clear eyes were suffused with shallow ripples as she quietly looked at the hazy forest fog like a sea of smoke, as if she was thinking about something. Under the lingering mist, her moving side profile was very beautiful. That's right, Big Brother Song. Is the news about the 4 great incantations reliable? Right at this moment, Yitai suddenly asked. The rest of the crowd was stunned as they looked at Song Yuanja one after another. Of course. Song Yuanja smiled faintly and nodded slightly. Before we came here, we've already investigated very clearly. The last place Shifeng disappeared was in this Mount Mang forest. Shifeng. The moment they heard these 3 words, a hint of reverence could be seen on everyone's faces. It was a reverence that came from their bones. TSK. Yitai shook his head and said in a low voice, "It's been more than 10 years. The one and only Earth rank inscription master in the 100 Nation state. Back then, he could make the ground shake with just a stomp of his foot. I didn't expect he would disappear for more than 10 years. The lady called Little One continued to ask, Big Brother Song, why did Shifeng disappear? Song Yuanja narrowed his eyes as he gulped and said in a deep voice, the backlash of the talisman energy. The crowd was shocked again. An Earth rank inscription master would actually suffer from the backlash of the talisman energy? Of course, an Earth rank inscription master would also make mistakes. Shifeng was originally a genius. He often researched new talisman techniques. It's normal for a problem to occur during the research and cause the backlash of the talisman energy. The few of them nodded in realization. As for Shifeng, they had heard a lot about him. More than 10 years ago, he was the #1 inscription master in the 100 Nation state. He was also the only Earth rank inscription master. His most unique ability was that he liked to research and develop some novel rune techniques or the power of curse seals. Especially the 4 great incantations that he researched, it caused a huge uproar at that time. The 4 great incantations were the Heavenly Spirit incantation, the Berserk incantation, the Transformation incantation, and the Clone incantation. When the 4 great incantations were researched by Shifeng, not only did the powerhouses from the 100 Nation state come and ask for it, but there were also countless people from the other provinces in the eastern continent who came to seek it. However, Shifeng had a strange temper. He would only inscribe incantations for people he liked. And who was the so-called pleasing to the eye? It all depended on his mood. If he was happy, even a nobody could obtain the power of his incantation. If he was unhappy, even the Emperor of Heaven could only shut the door in his face. It was also because of his stubborn temper that Shifeng offended many people at that time. Among them, there was no lack of influential figures from sections. Later on, the news of Shifeng suffering from the backlash of the talisman technique was leaked. Suddenly, a storm was brewing, the mountains were about to collapse, and the city was about to be destroyed. Shifeng was at the heart of the storm, and people came to seek revenge from him. Of course, there were even more people who wanted to pry into the 4 great incantation techniques and other talisman techniques that he researched. Earth rank inscription master. The only Earth rank inscription master in the 100 Nation state. Unexpectedly, Shifeng disappeared from everyone's sight as if he had evaporated from the face of the earth. He disappeared for more than 10 years. However, there was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. After more than 10 years, news was leaked that the last place Shifeng disappeared was in the Mang Mountain Forest. So many years have passed, and we don't even know if Shifeng is dead or alive. If he's not dead, we'll be in trouble. Humph. What's there to be afraid of? Chapter 460. He hasn't appeared for more than 10 years. He must be dead. Even if he's still alive, he's just struggling at death's door. I really hope we can find the power of those incantation seals. If we can obtain the power of those 4 incantation seals, then this trip will be worthwhile. Yitai chuckled. TSK. The young woman named Little One rolled her eyes at him and said, "You're thinking too much. We still haven't confirmed whether Shifeng Zi is in the Mang Mountain jungle or not, let alone finding the incantation seals that have disappeared for more than 10 years. Little One is right. Otherwise, the family wouldn't have sent us here to investigate first." Another man who was more intelligent said, "Let's find out as soon as possible before this news spreads to the outside world so that we can inform Moonlit City to prepare for the next step of the plan. I don't know which other forces got the news besides our Moonstripe City. If there are more people, it'll be more lively." As the crowd conversed in a low voice, the fog in the jungle became thicker. Not far away, the beautiful woman who was sitting on the trunk of a giant tree was still as quiet as a pool of autumn water. Her soft and beautiful eyes were quietly looking in one direction. She was not affected by the others at all. It's about time to rest. At this moment, Song Yuanjia clapped his hands lightly and stood up. He told the crowd, "This is the inner area of the Mang Mountain jungle. Be careful." The crowd stood up one after another. Each of them had a cautious expression on their faces. Although these people were outstanding geniuses in the outside world, the so-called land of death in the Mang Mountain jungle was not an undeserved reputation. On top of that, the strange fog was really strange, causing everyone to be even more cautious in their hearts. "Meng Shang, it's time to go." Song Yuanjia turned to look at the elegant and refined figure. The others also turned to look at her as well. The other party nodded calmly. His figure flashed, and he landed lightly on the ground like a butterfly. Song Yuanjia smiled and walked over to ask, "What's wrong? You seem to have a lot on your mind recently." "It's none of your business," she replied indifferently. "Huh? How could it not be my business? Big Brother has repeatedly instructed me to ensure your safety. If it wasn't for the fact that Big Brother had something to do at the last minute and couldn't leave, he would have accompanied you here." Song Yuanjia's voice paused and didn't continue. Because he realized that the other party wasn't listening to him at all, she pursed her red lips slightly, and her beautiful eyes subconsciously looked in another direction. The deep forest that was shrouded in mist revealed a hazy mystery. Then she raised her eyebrows, and her beautiful eyes suddenly shone with a faint light. A faint smile that came from the bottom of her heart appeared on the corners of her delicate mouth. The surrounding people all looked at each other. What was going on? The other party's mood changed too quickly, didn't it? "Dream, you guys go first. I'm not going with you," she suddenly said. "Why? I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned into a streak of light and flew in a certain direction. Song Yuanjia and the others still wanted to say something, but the figure of the other party had already disappeared into the thick fog. At this moment, on the other side of the Mang Mountain forest. Damn it, what the hell is this place? Chu Hen had already walked through the fog for several hours. Other than fog, there was more fog. This kind of feeling was as if he was walking through a maze that had no end, monotonous and dull. It would be fine if there were more people. At least there would be people to talk to. However, traveling alone in this illusory environment was extremely tedious. If it was an ordinary person, they would have long been driven crazy by the fog. Even if it was Chu Hen, at this moment, he felt a little bored. In comparison, a fierce battle to his heart's content was much better than this. Could it be that I accidentally broke into the illusory formation and fell into an illusion? Chu Hen suddenly shivered and then asked in a deep voice, "Damn bird, is this fog an illusion set up by someone else? Who are you scolding, you bastard?" The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow scolded coldly. "I'll scold whoever you want to scold. Stupid wild boy, do you want to die? Can you answer my question first? No comment. Solve it yourself. If you want to find that ball of demonic power as soon as possible, then don't dawdle." Since you want to cooperate with me, then show more sincerity. Please recognize that the person who wants to break through the 4-star demonic eyes is you. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow was also not a master who liked to compromise. Asking it to compromise and bow down to Chu Hen was absolutely impossible. Chu Hen secretly cursed this bird's temper. Immediately, Chu Hen prepared to use his demonic eyes to explore. However, at this moment, the fog in front of him gradually surged with a gray light. This, startled, Chu Hen gently clenched his fists. The Yuan core in his body quietly rotated, and the power of his inner Yuan surged out. The strange gray light continuously mixed into the white fog and dyed it gray. This kind of feeling was as if the water of an ocean was being quickly corroded and polluted. In the blink of an eye, the endless gray fog arrived in front of Chu Hen. It covered the sky and covered the earth, toppled the mountains, and overturned the seas. It was like a gray flood in a huge wave, directly submerging Chu Hen within it. In a split second, Chu Hen's front, back, left, and right were all covered in gray. It was as if he had been sucked into a sandstorm, or as if he had fallen into an abyss of water. A bone-chilling energy assaulted him from all directions. Chu Hen was shocked and puzzled. What was going on? This Mang Mountain forest was too strange. He couldn't see through it at all. Buzz! Suddenly, the airflow on the left suddenly trembled. With a ta sound, Chu Hen only felt a gust of cold wind sweep past his side. Following that, a sharp stinging sensation came from the back of his left hand. Raising his hand and lowering his head to look, he saw that there was a 10-centimeter long wound on the back of his hand. Red blood slowly flowed out from the wound, turning from thin to thick. Chu Hen's pupils slightly shrank, and his face suddenly appeared cautious. What was that thing that attacked him just now? It could so easily break through his defense of inner Yuan. It seemed that there was some unknown, terrible thing hidden in the gray fog. Without waiting for Chu Hen to think too much, the stream of air behind him faintly trembled. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. He suddenly turned his head and punched out. The inner Yuan attached to his fist exploded with a violent energy fluctuation. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. Chu Hen's punch seemed to have hit a dense mass of air. The gray fog in front of him was rolling like a tide. It shook endlessly under the impact of the fierce fist. Immediately after, the airflow on the left and right became chaotic again. Accompanied by the rapid wind, a dense and cold aura attacked Chu Hen from both sides. Chu Hen's complexion slightly changed. At the same time, he retreated. The power of his demon eye was immediately released. A beautiful purple light gushed out from his body. At the same time, a pair of deep eyes immediately turned into a demonic purple pupil. Boom! The next moment, the purple pupil bloomed with a bright light. Chu Hen's field of vision quickly became wide and powerful. In the gray fog, there were groups of strange black shadows. These strange black shadows were different in shape. Some are like humans, some are like demonic beasts, and some are like birds. Moreover, all of them exuded a strong, cold qi. Was this the thing that attacked him just now? Chu Hen was puzzled. Before he could observe carefully, one of the black shadows directly flew toward Chu Hen. The bone-piercing qi surged. When the black shadow arrived in front of Chu Hen, a sharp ghost claw quickly reached out and slashed toward Chu Hen's heart. A clear and sharp wah. Strange laughter sounded in the air. Humph! Chu Hen's complexion turned cold. The fist that was swallowing and spitting purple light surged out again. The impact with the power to split mountains and split the earth firmly smashed on the black shadow's head. Bang! Under the super strong and terrifying lethality, the black shadow made a low muffled sound. Then it exploded into a mass of scattered black gas and integrated into the fog. But before he had the time to relax, the strange black shadows in the fog had already surrounded Chu Hen in the middle. One after another, they rushed towards Chu Hen as if they were a pack of extremely hungry and ferocious wolves. Encountering such a situation, Chu Hen was not afraid. Chi-Chi, The endless power of dark lightning spread out from his body, interweaving into a three-dimensional lightning net that spread out in all directions. The active lightning patterns were powerful and sharp. Every flowing lightning pattern was like a sharp blade, killing in all directions and shredding the black shadows that were rushing over to pieces. Woo! Wah! All kinds of strange sounds that made one's scalp tingle became more and more terrifying. Under Chu Hen's fierce attack, the black shadows in the fog were constantly smashed into scattered masses of air. But soon, Chu Hen realized that something was wrong. No matter how he killed these black shadows, it seemed that not only did their numbers not decrease, but they also increased. Just now, there were clearly only a dozen black shadows. Now, at a glance, there was a dense black mass, like a school of jellyfish migrating with the sea, especially dense. What was even worse was that Chu Hen could clearly feel the true essence in his body rapidly draining away. It seemed that every time he killed a strange black shadow, a portion of his true essence would be inexplicably taken away. This kind of consumption had already exceeded the consumption of the Yuan Dan. I say, damn brat, do you really not know that these undead spirits will increase the more you fight? Chapter 461. What? There are more and more of them? Chu Hen's heart skipped a beat as he asked in shock. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow sneered and replied disdainfully, "You're stupid, yet you refuse to admit that these dead spirits are obviously controlled by a powerful spiritual formation. The more you kill, the angrier they get. You should have sensed it from the first one you killed. It seems like I've overestimated you. F***CK off. You stupid bird, it's easy for you to say that. I can't sense any rune power fluctuations at all. Oh, I'm sorry. I almost forgot that your demonic eyes are only at the level of 3 stars. It's not your fault that you can't see through the situation here." The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow's tone was light and sarcastic. Chu Hen was furious. The other party was doing this on purpose. "What do we do now?" Hee. In the beginning, you only needed to defend and maintain your strongest defense. If you didn't fight back, they wouldn't attack you too fiercely. As for now, think of a way yourself. Don't ask me. You? The corner of Chu Hen's eyes twitched. A hint of coldness appeared on his determined face. Looking around, left and right, he saw the strange black shadows that were like a school of piranhas in the deep sea. The extremely cold, profound In Chi was unexpectedly able to easily penetrate through Chu Hen's defensive layer, seep into his flesh and meridians, and reach straight into his bone marrow. He was too careless. Although Chu Hen had been careful along the way, he had still underestimated how terrifying the Mang Mountain Forest was. Of course, Chu Hen was panicking. Although he was a little anxious, he wasn't afraid. Nirvana Ray. Then, a dazzling light burst out of his demonic purple eyes. In the next moment, 2 purple arrows flew out of Chu Hen's eyes. The peerlessly sharp arrows quickly fused together and turned into a giant arrow that was dozens of meters wide. The arrow flew out and swept up a terrifying murderous aura as it hit the dead spirits in front of it. Arg! In an instant, a large number of dead spirits in front of him were instantly destroyed by the Nirvana light. The giant purple arrow was like a swordfish shuttling through the deep sea. It was like a hot knife cutting through butter, cleaving through the waves. A passageway opened up in the group of undead spirits ahead. Chu Hen's figure flickered as he hurriedly activated the light-shaking technique, transforming into a blur as he chased after the arrow. But while the Nirvana radiance killed a large number of undead, there were even more black silhouettes that constantly appeared. Bang! The purple arrow was intercepted by the ferocious attacks of the undead after traversing a kilometer in the mist, and it shattered into scattered light patterns that were wantonly dissipating in the air. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and a circle of golden-red, illusory flames bloomed. The dazzling, illusory flames formed a defensive light shield around his body. Under the protection of the light shield, Chu Hen sped up and broke out of the encirclement as fast as he could. However, it was just as the sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow had said. The more these undead spirits were killed, the angrier they became. The number of dead spirits killed by Chu Hen's Radiance of Nirvana just now had reached a rather shocking number. And the number of ferocious black shadows that were several times more than before once again appeared in front, back, left, right, and in all directions. There really is no end to them. It's all that damned bird's fault. Chu Hen cursed in his heart. Swish! Suddenly, at this moment, a pure and holy white light appeared without any warning. The powerful holy aura was like a ray of holy light that was separated from the nine heavens' Milky Way. It traversed through the sky, and wherever it went, all the undead spirits turned into bubbles and phantoms. The graceful white light split the group of undead spirits on Chu Hen's left, and then wrapped around Chu Hen's waist at an extremely fast speed. What? The sudden change caught Chu Hen off guard. Just as he was about to break free from the white light, a familiar aura of spiritual origin surged along with the light. Chu Hen's heart lit up, and the caution in his eyes instantly turned into deep surprise. Mengchong? Mengchong. Luo Mengchong. Just like her name, a woman with a pure heart and a picturesque beauty. In Chu Hen's mind, an absolutely beautiful face that could cause the downfall of nations and people immediately appeared. Immediately after, a powerful pulling force surged out from the white light beam. The light beam was like a soft satin as it directly pulled Chu Hen towards the direction it was flying from. Chu Hen did not resist at all, and instead increased his speed. In the next moment, in the gray fog in front of him, an elegant and beautiful figure turned from blurry to clear. Who else could it be but Luo Mengchong? Mengchong, it's really you. Chu Hen's face was filled with unconcealable surprise. Even he did not know why he was so happy to see Luo Mengchong. The nervousness he had just now disappeared in an instant. Looking at Chu Hen, who had arrived in front of her, Luo Mengchong's beautiful eyes rippled slightly, and there was a hint of inexplicable surprise in them. However, before she could even open her mouth to speak, she saw the black mass of dead spirits chasing after Chu Hen. It was as terrifying as a tsunami that soared into the sky. Let's go. Luo Mengchong did not say anything else. She subconsciously grabbed Chu Hen's hand and immediately flew backward. A soft, jade-like touch was transmitted through his fingertips. Chu Hen was momentarily dazed, but he quickly regained his composure and moved forward with the other party at an extremely fast speed. In the fog, the black army of dead spirits began to surround them. On the left, right, and behind, the terrifying number was like a swarm of tens of thousands of locusts. The incomparably cold, mysterious Yin Qi filled this space, and the circulation of Chu Hen's true yuan became faintly sluggish. At this moment, Luo Mengchong's soft, jade-like hand that was holding Chu Hen gently tightened. Immediately after, a sacred white light spread from her fingertips towards Chu Hen. Buzz! In an instant, a layer of white light lingered around Chu Hen's body, and, at the same time, the discomfort in his body was alleviated and subsided. Mengchong, you. Chu Hen was slightly surprised. Luo Mengchong smiled faintly. Her eyes were bright and her teeth were white, and a hint of playfulness flashed between her eyebrows. That seems to be the exit. Chu Hen glanced out of the corner of his eye and saw a white light similar to a passageway appear in his line of sight a few hundred meters ahead. Let's go, Luo Mengchong said. Swoosh! Immediately after, the two directly increased their speed to the fastest and headed towards the bright passageway. At this moment, the army of dead spirits became even more ferocious and furious. Thousands of black shadows gathered together, setting off a terrifying black tsunami that rushed towards Chu Hen and Luo Mengchong. The exit was close at hand, and the army of dead spirits was getting closer and closer. When the two arrived at the passageway, a dazzling white light caused their pupils to shrink to the size of a needle. Chapter 462. Buzz. Right at the instant when Chu Hen and Luo Mengchong arrived at the bright entrance of the passageway, The surging and monstrous undead army that was like a tsunami behind them whistled over with an extremely terrifying and violent might. A powerful force that was comparable to a torrent crushed down, causing the surrounding space to tremble endlessly. Rumble! A thunderous sound rang out, and an incomparably powerful shockwave surged towards the two of them. The violent attack released by the undead army of tens of thousands of undead was especially frightening and astonishing. The layer of pure and holy white light that Luo Mengchong had unleashed on Chu Hen's body was instantly smashed into smithereens. The incomparably powerful, mysterious Yin Shi was akin to sharp icicles, directly entering his meridians and flesh through his pores before gushing into his bones. Chu Hen's expression changed. He hurriedly pulled Luo Mengchong in front of him and used his own body to block the astonishing, mysterious Yin Shi that was surging towards him from behind. Boom! Layers of majestic, undead spirit waves collided against Chu Hen's back. The world seemed to tremble as a circle of gray light bloomed in the sky. The powerful impact force that was comparable to a mountain directly sent Chu Hen and Luo Mengchong flying. Rapid air currents whistled past their ears. Luo Mengchong was facing Chu Hen, her delicate body tightly pressed against his chest. Looking at the deathly pale Chu Hen, whose body had been invaded by the mysterious Yin aura of death, Luo Mengchong pursed her red lips, and a faint ripple appeared in her beautiful eyes. However, she did not expect that Chu Hen would actually block in front of her and bear the terrifying attack of the undead spirits alone. The powerful inertia force propelled the two of them forward rapidly. They were as fast as meteorites that traversed the sky. But at this moment, Chu Hen's pupils suddenly shrank, and a trace of panic appeared on his face. Before Luo Mengchong could react to what was happening, Chu Hen suddenly hugged her tightly in his arms. Immediately after, he suddenly turned around, and the two of them directly changed positions in the sky. Chu Hen directly switched to Luo Mengchong's position. Immediately after, in the next second, boom, an earth-shattering explosion exploded in this part of the world. The mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and rocks tumbled everywhere. The two of them were like meteorites falling from the sky, colliding solidly with a steep mountain. Inch by inch, the stone walls of the mountain range crumbled, and long and narrow cracks quickly spread out. Dust flew everywhere, covering the sky and covering the earth. In an instant, more than half of the steep mountain wall was forcefully flattened. The inertial impact of the undead army's attack on Chu Hen's body was actually so terrifying. Amidst the rubble, "Chu Hen, how are you? Are you all right?" The panic-stricken Luo Mengchong lifted her head from Chu Hen's arms, her beautiful face full of anxiety and worry. Lying on the rubble, Chu Hen was covered in dust, and there were many scratches on his body. But Luo Mengchong was almost unscathed. In that moment of imminent peril, Chu Hen saw that the two of them were about to collide with the mountain peak. Once again, he protected Luo Mengchong behind him, and withstood the powerful impact of the inertia with his own strength. Despite withstanding such a huge force, Chu Hen's aura was not particularly weak. After all, with the support of the chaotic body bloodline boundary and the flaming sun body tempering technique, Chu Hen's physique was comparable to a spiritual weapon, and he only suffered some superficial wounds, but Luo Mengchong did not know this. Her willowy eyebrows were tightly knitted, and her beautiful eyes were full of anxiety. "Don't scare me. I'm fine." Chu Hen smiled slightly. "Are you really fine?" "Of course, who do you think I am?" Luo Mengchong's beautiful eyebrows relaxed slightly, and the worry on her face faded a little. And only now did she realize that she was still lying on Chu Hen's body, and the two of them were so close that the tips of their noses almost touched, and they could even clearly feel each other's breath. Luo Mengchong's cheeks began to blush, and she quickly looked away, not daring to look at him. Just like that, Chu Hen quietly looked at the other party's beautiful face that was right in front of him. The faint body fragrance that originated from Luo Mengshang's body and the fragrance of her beautiful hair was very fresh and very pleasant. The atmosphere was a little strange. Chu Hen's breathing involuntarily became heavier, and at the same time, an inexplicable feeling of heat spread from his lower abdomen to his whole body, and his gaze towards Luo Mengshang faintly revealed some heat. Feeling the change in Chu Hen's body, Luo Mengshang looked back at him, and her eyes were full of a meaning that Chu Hen could not understand. But it was clear that there was a hint of behave yourself. The two of them stared at each other, and no one broke this quiet atmosphere. Luo Mengshang's red lips were slightly pursed, and her rosy little mouth was as lovely as a cherry. Her beautiful eyes were like water, and they gently turned as she said, "You, still not. Let go of me." In the end, it was still women who were thin-skinned, and Luo Mengshang was the first to break the silence. Chu Hen's face couldn't help but reveal a bit of embarrassment. He shifted his gaze away in embarrassment, then loosened his grip on Luo Mengshang's slender waist. Luo Mengshang raised her eyebrows slightly, and then sat up from Chu Hen's body. The moment her soft body left Chu Hen's arms, Chu Hen had a faint feeling of attachment. That feeling was like a seed in the soil, drilling out of the ground and giving birth to a bud. "What's wrong?" Seeing Chu Hen staring at her in a daze, Luo Mengshang gently patted him. "It's nothing." Chu Hen smiled, and then immediately sat up from the ground. Suddenly, all kinds of intense pain spread like a tide to every inch of his body. Hiss! Chu Hen could not help but suck in a breath of cold air, and his eyebrows were tightly knitted together. After all, it was not normal to say that he was not hurt at all after suffering 2 terrifying impacts in a row. Just now when he was lying on the ground, he did not feel much, but now that he moved, his whole body hurt. "What's wrong? Where are you hurt?" Luo Mengshang asked again, and then took out a delicate jade bottle, and then poured out a dark purple pill in the palm of her hand. "This is the Jade Dew pill. Take it." Luo Mengshang brought the Jade Dew pill to Chu Hen's mouth and personally fed it to him. Chu Hen was startled at first, then he swallowed the pellet. Approximately 10 seconds later, a cool and refreshing spring spread throughout his body, and the intense pain was quickly and effectively alleviated. "Do you feel better?" "Yes, much better." Chu Hen smiled. Luo Mengshang gently breathed a sigh of relief, and then looked at him with a bit of reproach. "Don't mess around like this in the future." Chu Hen touched his nose and looked at her. "But I don't want you to get hurt." Luo Mengshang's heartstrings trembled, and a bit of softness flashed in her eyes, and she avoided Chu Hen's gaze. "That won't do. Don't look down on me." "Yes, I still have to thank the peerless beauty, Miss Mengshang, who is admired by tens of thousands of people, for helping me out." Chu Hen joked and said, "Nonsense. But really, you provoked so many dead spirits. Don't you know that the more you kill, the more they increase?" "I didn't know at first, and when I found out, it was already too late." "Forget it if you die of stupidity. You don't even know this, and you still dare to come to the Mang Mountain Forest." Chu Hen smiled embarrassedly, and then asked curiously, "Oh yes, Mengshang, why are you here? Did you also leave the Sacred Star Empire?" "Sacred Star Empire?" Luo Mengshang looked at him in surprise, and there was a bit of disappointment in her eyes. "What's the matter?" Chu Hen asked. "Nothing." Luo Mengshang shook her head, and then asked again, "So, in the 2 years that I left the Sacred Star Empire, you didn't know where I was?" Chu Hen shook his head. "All right then." The disappointment between Luo Mengshang's eyebrows disappeared, and she did not continue to argue about it. Then she said, "I came here with the team from the family to investigate the disappearance of Senior Shifengzi." "Shifengzi? The strongest inscription artist in the 100 Kingdoms?" Chu Hen blurted out. The name Shifengzi had caused a sensation for decades. Even though he had disappeared for more than 10 years, his deeds were still spread in various regions of the 100 Kingdoms. When he was in the Long clan of Flaming Rain City in the Sacred Star Empire, Chu Hen had heard from Long Zhan and other seniors about Shifengzi's deeds. Therefore, Chu Hen was not unfamiliar with this name. All right, Luo Mengchong agreed softly. Then, she parted her red lips and told Chu Hen everything she knew about Shifeng Zi and Mao Meng. Chu Hen was shocked when he heard about it. He could not help but think of the Azurist sect's sneak attack on the Thousand Cranes sect called disciples. On the surface, it seemed like the Azurist sect was here to deal with the Thousand Cranes sect. However, if one thought about it carefully, one would realize that was not the Azurist sect's main objective. The reason was very simple. If the Azurist sect was here to deal with the Thousand Cranes sect, then they would not have sent so few people. Would it not be better to send more people to deal with the Thousand Cranes sect's Hall disciples? In this way, it was very likely that Tu Yi and Langley had come to investigate this matter. However, that Langley could rest in peace forever. What about you? Why did you come here? Luo Mengchong was slightly curious. Since it wasn't because of Shifeng Zi, then why did they come here? It's for a source of energy. Oh, what kind of energy? I don't know exactly what kind of energy it is, but it can help me break through the limits of my bloodline. Chu Hen told the truth. He did not deceive her. He trusted Luo Mengchong completely. Luo Mengchong looked up at Chu Hen with a strange expression. She pondered for a moment before she said gently, "Speaking of bloodline limits, I suddenly thought of something. Tell me." Chapter 463. Just now, I saw that your pupils were purple. Luo Mengchong's red lips parted slightly, and her beautiful eyes revealed a slight strangeness. Chu Hen was startled at first, but he suddenly remembered that he did not withdraw his demonic eyes in time. However, Chu Hen only smiled. Some gentleness surged into his eyes as he said, "If someone else were to ask me this question, I would tell them that it is a type of illusion technique that I train in. It is an illusion technique that is activated with my eyes." Then what if I asked? Luo Mengchong looked at him. "If you ask, then I can't tell you for the time being." "Why?" "Because it's not the day you get married yet. When you're about to get married, we'll exchange our secrets with each other." Chu Hen replied softly. Luo Mengchong raised her eyebrows slightly, and a beautiful smile appeared on her elegant and refined face. "You still remember this agreement?" This agreement was made by Luo Mengchong on a whim when she participated in the heavenless battle of the Six Nations in the ruins of the Seven Souls' ancient kingdom. She thought that Chu Hen would not take it to heart, but she did not expect him to remember it all the time. Chu Hen also smiled. "Of course I won't forget. The purple pupils are also my biggest secret. I'm waiting to exchange it with you." "All right, then we'll talk about it when I'm about to get married." Luo Mengchong did not continue to argue about this issue. Chu Hen nodded. However, for some reason, when he talked about Luo Mengchong getting married, there was an indescribable feeling in Chu Hen's heart, as if there was a stone stuck in his throat, and there was an inexplicable concern. What now? Luo Mengchong patted him lightly. Chu Hen came back to his senses and then shook his head. "It's nothing, let's go. Take care of your internal energy first. Although the injury is not particularly serious, don't take it lightly, or it will easily cause problems." Okay. After the endless fog and the undead army, there was a large canyon with no end in sight. The surrounding mountains rose and fell, the peaks high and precipitous. Towering peaks pierced through the clouds, as if they were pillars that supported the heavens. This was an ancient mountain forest that was rarely visited by humans. It was shrouded in a mysterious veil. About half an hour later, Chu Hen finished recuperating and opened his eyes. His eyes shone like stars. At this moment, Luo Mengchong was standing on top of another giant peak. She was otherworldly, like a fairy who had descended from the heavens, her beauty unmatched. Chu Hen stepped into the air and flashed to Luo Mengchong's side. "You're awake. You look much more energetic." "Yes. What are you doing here? Look over there." Luo Mengchong raised her lily-white hand and pointed towards the depths of the Grand Canyon. Chu Hen was slightly surprised, and his gaze followed the direction the other person was pointing at. Amidst the towering mountains and lofty peaks, there were a few strange white lights flashing between the heavens and the earth. He did not know what the white lights were. They were like shadows, like a white rainbow, like a holy radiance. The clouds and mist lingered in the sky. From afar, the strange white lights felt like white snakes shuttling through the clouds. Do you want to take a look? Where is the energy source that you're looking for that can enhance the power of your bloodline? Luo Mengchong asked. Chu Hen shook his head. I don't know the specific location, but it should be nearby. Let's try our luck there. Immediately, the two of them moved and followed the Grand Canyon toward the interior. The deeper they went, the more open the terrain of the Grand Canyon became. There were many strange flowers and plants growing here, and bees and butterflies were dancing, showing a harmonious ecology. However, what Chu Hen did not understand was that in this large canyon, not even a single monstrous beast could be seen. Not to mention a large beast king, level monstrous beast. Even some ordinary spiritual beasts and great monstrous beasts were difficult to see. On the contrary, there were many elk, goats, wild rabbits, and other ordinary small beasts with low spiritual intelligence leisurely eating grass and drinking spring water. Both Chu Hen and Luo Mengchong were a little surprised. They did not expect that the central area of the Mang Mountain jungle, where the Forbidden City of Death was located, would have such a harmonious natural environment. After a while, the two of them arrived in the middle of the area, surrounded by several towering peaks. They had almost reached the deepest part of the Grand Canyon. The first thing that caught their eyes was the strange stones piled up everywhere. These strange stones had edges and corners, and they were all very large. Even the smallest one was as big as a water tank, and the biggest one was as big as a house. If one were to observe it carefully, one would be able to notice that there were numerous strange stone markings on the strange stone. The markings crisscrossed like ancient talisman markings. The stones were piled up in a valley, and the giant peaks stood outside. The power of heaven and earth gathered spiritual energy from all directions. From afar, this area was a bit like a huge furnace formed by heaven and earth. However, in the center of the countless stones piled up everywhere, there was a majestic stone platform. The stone platform was about 100 feet wide and dozens of meters high. This stone platform was not old, but it was full of style. Strange runes were inscribed on the stone platform. The runes were inscribed in all directions, and there were different mysterious patterns on the north, south, east, and west. The strokes of these runes were especially bold and powerful, and they faintly revealed an extraordinary and piercingly cold aura. There's someone on the stone platform. Chu Hen and Luo Mengchong exchanged glances when they arrived, and then they flashed down from midair. They concealed their auras and approached the stone platform stealthily. Soon after, the two of them stopped behind a slope about 500 meters away from the stone platform. The slope was covered in lush shrubbery, and it concealed their figures very well. Looking from afar, one could see that there were two teams standing on a vast stone platform. One of them was the group from the Azura sect that had attacked the Thousand Cranes sect on the Sky Glory platform. The members of the Azura sect emanated a faint aura of blood, and Tu Yi, who led the group, emanated a bloodthirsty aura. His cold and gloomy gaze was so sharp that he seemed like a ferocious wolf lurking in the bushes in the dark. As for the other group, Chu Hen was not unfamiliar with them either. They were disciples of the Illusory Rain sect. The person leading the group was the ordinary-looking young man who dared to challenge Spearmaster Si Zai back at the 10,000 Beast Ridge. They seemed to be from the Azura sect and the Illusory Rain sect. Luo Mengchong said softly, "That's them." Chu Hen replied with certainty. It seemed that the two of them had made a very wise choice not to rashly appear here. Whether it was the Illusory Rain sect or the Azura sect, Chu Hen did not have any advantage. There was no communication between the two groups on the stone platform. However, from the expressions of many people from the Illusory Rain sect, they were still quite fearful of the Azura sect's Tu Yi. Tu Yi crossed his arms in front of him, and the corners of his lips curled into a demonic smile. He glanced at the ordinary-looking young man from the Illusory Rain sect with some interest. "Since you're already here, why don't you show yourself?" At this moment, Tu Yi raised his head slightly and said in a frivolous voice. Chu Hen and Luo Mengchong, who were hiding in the dark, were slightly startled, revealing looks of astonishment. I'm not talking about us. Luo Mengchong shook her head gently. Chu Hen nodded. Following that, a burst of loud laughter was heard. Ha ha! You're indeed a core disciple of the Azura sect. We can't hide from you even before we get close. Then, a dozen young men and women with extraordinary auras approached the stone platform in front of them. Tui squinted at the leading man and said coolly, I was wondering who it was. So it's the second young master of the Tsang clan of Moon City, and also the fifth absolute of the seven absolutes, young master Tsang Yuanjia. Fifth master? Moon City? In the rear area, Chu Hen was slightly startled. He whispered to Luo Mengchong, Did you come with him? Luo Mengchong replied softly, Yes. Then do you want to meet up with them? No need. I didn't want to come here. If it wasn't for my father's order, I wouldn't be here. Fortunately, you're here, Chu Hen said. Luo Mengchong smiled faintly and said nothing more. Tsang Yuanjia spread his hands and shrugged. Senior brother Tu Yi thinks too highly of me. It's our honor to see senior brother Tu Ye's glory today. Ha! Ha! Look at what you're saying. Are you really lying? Could it be that your Tsang clan is full of hypocrites? As soon as he said that, the faces of the people of Moon City darkened. The young man called Yi Tai shouted sternly, Azura sect, could it be that you don't even know how to speak human language? Yi Tai, don't be rude. Tsang Yuanjia frowned and raised his hand to stop him. Then he cupped his fist at Tu Yi and said, My subordinates are insensible and rude. If they have offended you, please apologize to senior brother Tu Yi. There's no need to apologize. Just kneel down and kowtow out to me a few times, and I'll let it go. Tu Yi was really not afraid of offending people. His words did not give any face to the people of Moon City. Apart from Tsang Yuanjia, the rest of the people were furious. Suddenly, a tense atmosphere filled the air. Don't be angry, everyone. I'm just joking. Tui knew when to stop, but he did not intend to completely fall out with them. The expressions of the people of Moon City eased slightly. Tsang Yuanjia looked relaxed. Ha! Senior brother Tui is really good at joking. Tui crossed his arms and raised his left hand gently. Why? The young master of the Tsang clan, young master Yu, didn't come? As soon as they heard the words young master Yu, the experts of Azura sect behind Tu Yi and the people of Illusory Rain sect were moved. Tsang Yuanjia smiled indifferently. My brother was going to come, but something came up, so he didn't come. It's good that he didn't come. If the famous young master Yu came, there would be nothing for us to do here. Ha! Tu Ye's tone was ear-piercing, and each and every word he spoke carried a sharpness to them. The faces of the people of Moon City changed from pleasant to unpleasant. Chapter 464. In the deep valley of Mount Mang, there were huge peaks that reached the sky. Under the sky that was shrouded in spiritual mist, huge rocks of various sizes were piled up in the valley. On the majestic stone platform, the spirit patterns in the four corners outlined strange and mysterious characters of the secret scripture. Everything here seemed ordinary and unremarkable, but in reality, it was filled with an unfathomable and indistinct aura. The arrival of the team from Moon City broke the peaceful confrontation between Shura sect and Illusory Rain sect. Fist extinction, Tsang Yuanjia. Among the seven absolutes of Heaven's Chosen, Chu Hen had already seen palm extinction Tian Xiang, spear extinction Si Zai, blade extinction Lang Li, array extinction Yanhan Lu, and now Tsang Yuanjia. Among the seven absolutes, there were only two geniuses, Huan extinction and sword extinction, that he had not seen before. Of course, Chu Hen, who was hiding in the dark with Luo Mengchong, was more surprised. What kind of force is Moon City? How dare they challenge Shura sect? Chu Hen whispered to Luo Mengchong. Luo Mengchong's beautiful eyes rippled, and her red lips opened slightly. Moon City is one of the largest cities in the 100 Kingdoms province. It is prosperous, and it does not belong to any dynasty or country. The economic lifeline of Moon City is controlled by the 8 great clans. These 8 great clans are not weak in the 100 Kingdoms province, and the Tsang clan is the leader of the 8 great clans, and also the master of Moon Inn City. Song clan? Shu Hen's eyes narrowed. That's right, the Song clan is a first-rate clan with a heritage of nearly 1,000 years. Although its strength is slightly weaker than Shura's sect, Illusory Rain sect, and other sects, if we consider Moon Inn City as a whole, including the other clans, the overall strength of Moon Inn City can still challenge the major sects. Luo Mengshang explained to Chu Hen in a more objective manner. I see. Chu Hen nodded his head. The 100 Nations province was a vast land with abundant resources. Its territory was vast, and there were countless large and small powers and sections. Although the sects were the most powerful, there were still a few powerful clans with strong heritage, and their strength was close to the sects. Then who is the young master that you mentioned? Chu Hen asked casually. Luo Mengchang knitted her eyebrows and said lightly, the eldest young master of the Song clan, the #1 genius of the Moon Inn City. Oh, you even want to defeat Fist Extreme, Song Yuanjia? Yes, he is much stronger than Song Yuanjia. When Song Yuanjia was 15 years old, he had already reached the void-piercing realm. At that time, he caused quite a stir in the 100 Kingdoms province. Not only did the Shaozong sect personally send someone to the Moon Dragon City to extend an olive branch to him, but Song Yuanjia rejected them all. He rejected the invitations of the major sects. Why? Chu Hen was slightly surprised. Everyone has their own ambitions. At that time, Song Yujie only had one reason to reject the offer, which was that the clan couldn't lose to the sect. What a good family clan, not losing to a sect. Chu Hen could not help but nod his head in admiration. He had to admit that the young Master Song Yujie, was indeed born with a lofty and domineering character. Just the feat of reaching the void-piercing realm at the age of 15 was enough to make him look down upon the countless top geniuses of the 100 Kingdoms province. Looking at Chu Hen's unintentional expression of appreciation, Luo Mengchang's eyes were inexplicably complicated. Ha ha! Everyone, you're early. Suddenly, a hearty laughter came from afar. The people from Ashura's sect, Illusory Rain sect, and Moon Inn City were stunned as they looked in the direction of the voice. Meanwhile, Chu Hen, who was hiding in the dark, was also stunned. This voice is Mufeng? Mufeng, the first person he met in Tensei Prefecture, a joker who could not stop talking about women. Soon, along with the rapid wind-breaking momentum, more than 10 swift and fierce figures traversed the sky and landed on a few boulders below the stone platform. Buzz! A piercingly cold aura spread out in all directions. The air was filled with layers upon layers of waves. More than half of the people in this group wore the same clothes, and on their left arms there was a pattern of a sharp sword. It's the people from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Luo Mengchang said softly. Heavenly Sword Pavilion? Another big sect. Chu Hen's gaze trembled slightly. His gaze directly landed on the young man at the head of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion's group. This person had a handsome face and was born with a dignified appearance. However, the lazy expression on his face made him seem like a frivolous playboy no matter how one looked at him. And this person was none other than Mufeng. It's really that guy? Chu Hen was shocked and suspicious. He was extremely stunned. Mufeng was actually someone from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion? Then why did he come to a small place like Sacred Star, Dynasty's Tensei Prefecture? Just for women? Thinking of this, Chu Hen was immediately impressed by the other party. Isn't he the person from your Tensei Prefecture? Luo Mengchang said, a little surprised. Chu Hen nodded. Although he had always suspected that Mu Feng's background was not simple, he did not expect him to come from such a powerful sect. Hey, I was wondering who it was. So it's the famous Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Tu Yi crossed his arms, a playful smile on his face. How unlucky. I thought I would meet a few beauties. I didn't expect it to be a bunch of burly men. Mu Feng cursed in a low voice. Everyone could not help but be stunned, and they looked at Mu Feng in confusion. Song Yunjia of Moontide City raised one hand and asked tentatively, Senior brother, you seem a little unfamiliar. I wonder which expert from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion are you a disciple of? The people from Illusory Rain sect and Shura sect also showed a little curiosity. Hey, you don't even know me? You're all good to me. I don't change my name or my surname. People give me the nickname Little White Dragon in the Waves, Move Foam. Move Foam? The people from the three forces were stunned again. Ha! A disdainful sneer came from the Shura sex group. One of them, a man with sickly pale skin, came forward and laughed. I was wondering who he was. It turns out he's the useless son of the pavilion master of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. The other people in the room also revealed a bit of a sneer. Everyone knew that the pavilion master of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion, Mu Xiongkai, had outstanding sword skills and was a great strategist. His startling devil sword was unrivaled in the 100 Nations Prefecture. However, Mu Xiongkai's son was a complete idiot. Of course, Mu Xiongkai's son was not bad. The reason he was called an idiot was because his mind was full of women. When he was in his teens, the female disciples of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion were all harassed by him. If he cultivated diligently, it would be fine. As long as he did not fall behind in his cultivation, everyone would turn a blind eye. However, he could not stop talking about women. His mind was filled with women all day long. It caused all the female disciples of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion to avoid him. Finally, once again, he, who was extremely lustful, had designs on the seventh elder of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Although the seventh elder was over 30 years old, she was still beautiful. The reckless Mu Feng peeped at the seventh elder bathing and changing clothes and was discovered by the seventh elder. He slapped the seventh elder until he saw stars and lost his bearings. Then, the seventh elder reported it to Mu Xiongkai. Mu Xiongkai was infuriated. He had lost all his face to his ancestors. The enraged Mu Xiongkai kicked and broke 3 of Mu Feng's ribs. Luckily, a few elders begged for mercy. Otherwise, Mu Feng would have been crippled. After recovering from his injuries, Mu Feng was also filled with anger. He wrote, Mu Xiongkai is a bastard on the statue of the sword ancestor in the Heavenly Sword Pavilion and chose to run away from home. And this matter was treated as a joke by the various sections. No one had expected that the people of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion would also come here. Even more so, they did not expect that the leader this time would be Mu Feng. Mu Xiongkai couldn't understand why his idiot son would come here to be a joke. What? Young master idiot, when did your father let you go back? If it were me, I would not want such a son. The man from the Shura sect mocked. The rest of the people sneered as well. People from the Shura sect, don't you have any manners? A young man from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion scolded. Their young master was indeed an idiot. But no matter what, it was not their place to lecture him. Mu Feng being humiliated by the people from the Shura sect was also a humiliation to the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Sigh, Chut, you don't stand up for me. Mu Feng raised his hand slightly to stop his companions behind him. Then, he looked at the people from the Shura sect and said, What the hell are you laughing at? Don't you have any manners? Scolding people the moment you come, your ancestors. The moment these words came out, everyone was stunned. This was especially so for the people from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Their eyes could not help but twitch. Accompanying Mu Feng was a huge mistake. The eyes of the person from the Shura sect who was being scolded immediately turned cold. A sinister smile appeared on his sickly pale face. Ha! An idiot will always be an idiot. You only know how to use your tongue. Oh, you bastard! You dare to argue with me? If you have the guts, come down here and see if I don't beat you until you piss your pants. The people from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion were speechless once again. On the other hand, the people from the Shura sect were enraged. A piercingly cold, evil aura emanated from his body. However, he did not attack immediately. Instead, his gaze swept towards Tuyi. Ha! Tuyi smiled playfully. His expression was one of ridicule as he said, Since the young master of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion wants to spar with you, you should just agree. To be able to witness the exquisite swordsmanship of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion is a feast for the eyes. I understand. With Tuyi's words, the aura that erupted from the pale-skinned person from the Shura sect was like a ferocious beast that had just been released from its cage. His body moved, and a surging murderous aura surged as he charged towards Mufeng. "Young master, be careful." The people from the Heavenly Sword Pavilion drew their swords. "Don't worry, I will deal with this bastard myself." Chapter 465. Don't worry, this Commander Feng will deal with this bastard myself. After saying that, an incomparably powerful and sharp sword force swept out from Mufeng's body. His right hand grabbed at the air, and the spiritual energy of the world within a dozen meters instantly gathered in his palm. Mufeng raised his hand and raised his palm. A bright and resplendent golden-colored sword aura surged out from his palm, transforming into an incomparably solid sword shadow that directly attacked the person from the Shura sect, whose skin was sickly and pale. The sword shadow flew across the sky, releasing an invisible aura that spread in all directions. It was like flying flowers and cutting leaves, and even the surrounding rocks were faintly discernible with deep sword markings. "Humph, so you do have some ability." The Azura sect member's expression changed slightly when he sensed the aura of Mufeng's sword. A dense black light erupted from his body, and he immediately raised his hand and threw a punch. A solid fist light shot out explosively and solidly collided with the sword shadow. Bang! Once the astonishing forces collided, a berserk remnant force of true Yuan burst forth in midair. Chaotic air waves spread in all directions, sparks flew in all directions, and light markings flew in all directions. The golden silhouette of the sword that Mufeng had unleashed actually collapsed and exploded, turning into sparkling and translucent fragments that filled the sky. A faint sneer appeared on the faces of everyone present. This was especially true for the Azura sect members, whose faces were filled with disdain. "Ha! An idiot will always be an idiot." The sickly pale man sneered endlessly. However, at this moment, an illusory silver light figure suddenly flew out from the golden sword shadow that had exploded. This silver light figure was nearly transparent, like a strand of thin gauze. However, upon closer inspection, it was actually a strand of strange sword light. What? That person was suddenly shocked in his heart. Before he could even react, the strand of practically translucent sword light had suddenly sped up, and its speed was so swift that it was like a flowing light flying through the ages, and it carried a dangerous aura as it charged and slashed at the person. Boom! A ball of scattered silver light blossomed in front of that person. Under the astonished gazes of everyone present, that wisp of sword light directly penetrated the dense black light around that person's body and landed on his chest. In that instant, the clothes on the man's chest were instantly shattered by the powerful sword chi. A string of scarlet blood flew out, and a small bloody hole immediately appeared in the center of the man's chest. Wah! Looking at the scene in front of them, everyone from Moon's End City, sect of Illusory Rain, and Shura sect was astonished. That's not right. This didn't seem to match the rumors. Even the Heavenly Sword Pavilion disciples who had come with Mufeng were surprised. Even they did not know when Mufeng had become so powerful. It was no wonder that the Pavilion Master had sent Mufeng to lead the team for this trip to the Mang Mountain Forest. Previously, everyone had suspected that the Pavilion Master was trying to find a way to kick Mufeng out again, so that the Heavenly Sword Pavilion would have some peace and quiet again. Now, it seemed like that was not the case. Hiding in the dark, Chu Hin and Luo Mingshang were also a little surprised. This guy's cultivation has improved a lot. Chu Hin said softly. Luo Mingshang nodded and replied softly. Back in the Sacred Star Empire, I already felt that his aura and true essence were much more stable and pure than ordinary people. But I never expected him to be the young master of the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Chu Hin couldn't help but laugh involuntarily. Thinking back to the past, Mufeng was full of nonsense all day long. He would even boast every day and exaggerate everything. At that time, everyone only thought that he was boasting without a draft. Now that he thought about it, the majority of the unreliable things that Mufeng said back then were not lies. Do you want to go over? Luo Mengshang's red lips parted slightly. Chu Hin shook his head. Not for now. The man from the Shura sect who had been defeated by Mu Fang's sword flashed and landed on a huge rock. He covered his bleeding wound with one hand, and his eyes were red with anger, as if they were about to spit fire. "You've really hidden your strength well, you idiot." "Oomph, please watch your words. If I'm an idiot, then you're pig dung." Mu Fang pointed at the man and retorted. The man was furious, and his murderous intent surged. An even more violent aura than before soared into the sky. The thick black light was mixed with a strange blood-red light. He leaped up again, and the vast and shocking true essence pressure crushed down on Mu Fang. "I was too careless just now. Die, useless thing." Mu Fang's eyes turned cold, and under his cynical smile, there was a hint of coldness. "Bastard, let's see who's courting death." Screech. However, at this moment, a loud and clear bird's cry resounded through the sky. The sharp and high-pitched cry of an eagle exuded a power that shook all directions. Everyone's heart was filled with shock. In the next instant, a silver ray of light pierced through the sky. It was as fast as lightning and whistled through the sky. The silhouette of a ferocious bird appeared in the silver ray of light, and its aura shook the heavens. It was like a divine eagle that traversed the sky. Boom! A strong gust of wind rushed over, and illusory waves of light appeared in the air. Along with an incomparably terrifying pressure, the eagle light shot towards the crowd at a shocking speed. Its target was none other than the sickly pale man from the Shura sect. Bang! The space violently trembled, and a mighty wave of air swept in all directions. The pale man's pupils violently shrank, and before he could react, the ray of light had already arrived in front of him. A majestic pressure like a mountain caused him to be unable to move. Immediately after, a powerful palm reached out from the ray of light and pressed against the top of the man's head. The man's aura was instantly crushed to its lowest point. He lost his balance in the air and was firmly sucked into the palm. Rumble! An extraordinary, imposing aura crushed the surroundings, and then an extraordinary and fierce figure appeared before everyone's eyes, while silver light flickered. "Ko Tianshun!" An exclaim resounded from the group from Lunar Nightmare City. The members of the Illusory Rain sect, Shura sect, and Skyling Sword Pavilion revealed shocked expressions as well. The members of the Thousand Crane sect have actually come as well. Swish! Swish! After that, numerous rapid sounds of air being torn apart resounded. Over a dozen figures with powerful auras flashed through the sky, and they emanated powerful, imposing auras as they descended firmly onto a pile of rocks behind Ko Tianshun. At the same time, everyone's gazes moved from Ko Tianshun to a handsome and graceful young man. Planet Sherwin? Ko Tianshun. Planet Sherwin. The Thousand Crane sect had actually dispatched 2 core disciples. The Thousand Crane sect's group is here as well. Luo Mengchong muttered softly from the shadows. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly, and he laughed coldly. "It would be strange if they didn't come." "What? You know them?" Luo Mengchong noticed that there was something off about Chu Hen's tone. "It's a long story. I'll tell you when I have the time." Chu Hen didn't explain anything, but the coldness in his eyes grew even colder. The arrival of the group from the Thousand Crane sect instantly caused the atmosphere in the surroundings to heat up. All the sects knew that the Thousand Crane sect and Azura sect were mortal enemies, and the enmity between the two sects had been entangled since the establishment of their sections. Of course, to the group from Lunar Nightmare City, Illusory Rain sect, and Skyling Sword Pavilion. If the Azura sect and Thousand Crane sect were to enter into battle here, it might be a show worth watching. Oomph. We meet again, senior brother Tu Yi. A mocking smile appeared on the corners of Ko Tianshun's mouth as he pressed his right hand against the top of the head of the young man from Azura sect. The latter struggled incessantly, but it was to no avail. It was like his life was being held down, and he couldn't struggle free from Ko Tianshun's grasp at all. The young man rebuked furiously, Let go of me!" Ko Tianshun remained unmoved as he continued to stare at Tu Yi, who was standing on the stone platform. The atmosphere was tense, and the atmosphere was heavy. The group from Azura sect could not help but exude a murderous aura. Tui did not seem flustered at all when he faced Ko Tianshun and the two core geniuses of the Thousand Crane sect from Sherwin Star. Tui smiled faintly. Hee hee, not bad. You caught up so quickly. Did you kill Langley? What? Langley is dead? The group from Lunar Nightmare City, Illusory Rain Sect, and Skyling Sword Pavilion could not help but feel restless. Ko Tianshun sneered. So what if I did? So what if I didn't? Langley only died a step earlier than you. Hee hee, two core disciples. Tisk, it's a little troublesome. Tui stroked his chin lightly and said, the situation here is slightly complicated. Are you sure you want to fight us now? The group from Thousand Crane sect from Sherwin Star glanced solemnly at the crowd and the surroundings. They followed the tracks of the Azura sect all the way here, so they didn't know that other sects had arrived, nor did they understand the situation here. Under such circumstances, rashly declaring war against the Azura sect seemed to be a little inappropriate. Ko Tianshun looked up slightly, and then he raised his right hand. The Azura sect disciple's body was lifted up horizontally, and he struggled like a grasshopper. Ha! Senior brother Tu Yi, you're absolutely right. The situation is too complicated, and our Thousand Crane sect is slightly unable to endure it. Since that's the case, then I'll return him to you. As soon as he finished speaking, a wave of hidden energy surged out from Ko Tianshun's palm. The Azura sect disciple immediately broke free from Ko Tianshun's palm and flew swiftly towards the stone platform. The expressions of the others behind Tu Yi eased up slightly, and they laughed inwardly at the cowardice of the Thousand Crane sect disciples. However, when the disciple was pushed to the sky in front of the Azura sect's group, an extreme energy fluctuation suddenly erupted from his body. In an instant, countless rays of silver light shot out from his body. The disciple's expression changed drastically, and his eyes opened wide while boundless pain surged out from his face that was filled with terror. No! Boom! In the next second, the disciple's body exploded into pieces, and blood instantly rained down from the sky above the stone platform. Chapter 466. Rumble. Just when everyone thought that Ko Tianshun was really going to let the young man from the Shura sect go, an extreme energy explosion suddenly erupted. Countless dazzling silver beams of light burst out of the young man's body. With a shrill scream, the young man's body exploded into a rain of blood. A scarlet mist of blood instantly rained down from the sky above the stone platform. The sudden turn of events stunned everyone from Moon End City, the Heavenly Sword Pavilion, and the Illusory Rain sect. The faces of those from the Shura sect instantly darkened, and a thick layer of frost covered their faces. Song Yinjia, Mu Feng, and the ordinary-looking man who led the group from the Illusory Rain sect were slightly surprised. Ko Tianshun really was a top genius disciple of the Thousand Crane sect. He killed decisively, and his methods were forceful. He really was swift and decisive. The other members of the Thousand Crane sect at the back were delighted. They'd finally gotten their revenge after being ambushed by those from the Shura sect on the Heavenly Brilliance platform. Shi Wenxing raised his brows slightly, and a cold smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. It was obvious that he rather approved of Ko Tianshun's actions. A piercingly cold, killing intent began to fill the surroundings. Ko Tianshun stood proudly in the sky. He had an awe-inspiring and extraordinary bearing, and he fully displayed the extraordinary bearing of a core disciple of the sect. He stared coldly at Tu Yi, who stood on the stone platform in front of him. The provocation in his eyes was not concealed at all. The atmosphere froze, and swords were drawn. Ko Tianshun had used such a shocking method to declare war on Tu Ye's group. Apart from shocking everyone, he'd also given the Shura sect a resounding slap in the face in front of the other three great forces. Tu Yi laughed, and his laughter was especially eerie and cold. The scarlet rain of blood and bits of flesh scattered around the stone platform. After that, Tu Ye's eyes suddenly turned cold, and a bloodthirsty and ruthless aura emanated from his body. Ko Tianshun, you've got guts. Oomph. Ko Tianshun sneered and replied with a mocking expression. I, Ko Tianshun, have always had guts. 2E, I've waited for this day for a long time. Make your move. What? Are you going to do it alone? 2E glanced indifferently at Sherwin's star. Presently, 2 core disciples from the Thousand Cranes sect had arrived. On the Shura sect side, 2E was the only one left after Langley was killed. Logically speaking, 2Ye's best option right now was to retreat. However, there was not the slightest hint of fear on his face. At the same time, Ko Tianxin's aura was awe-inspiring. I alone am enough to deal with you. A sharp aura suppressed the entire area. Strange silver runes of light were released from Ko Tianxin's body like holy light. The runes flowed all over his body and attached to his body, vaguely forming the silhouette of an eagle. Surging flames spread in all directions. It gave people the feeling that it was a ferocious bird that could come out at any time. The expressions of the surrounding people changed slightly, and they all instinctively retreated to the back. There's going to be a good show. Mu Feng snickered secretly. He was eager to see the world in chaos. Let's see just how outstanding the sky-ripping eagle's bloodline is today. Tui grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Buzz! Buzz! Suddenly, right when a fierce battle was about to break out, something unexpected happened. A strange energy fluctuation spread out from the stone platform. Everyone was shocked. When they focused their attention, they saw the mysterious runes on the surface of the platform emitting a gentle glow. What's going on? The people from the Thousand Cranes sect and the Heavenly Sword Pavilion of Moon Inn City were shocked. The people from the Shura sect and the Illusory Rain sect on the stone platform were even more surprised. These 2 teams were the first to arrive here. They had carefully observed the square runes on the stone platform just now, but they did not find any valuable clues. Look, the runes are sucking blood. Someone from the Illusory Rain sect exclaimed. Sucking blood? The hearts of everyone present could not help but be startled. As expected, the strange runes on the platform began to move. The blood on the ground surged toward the runes at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, it quickly merged with the runes. The blood on the ground was naturally the blood of the Shura sect disciple that Ko Tianxin had just killed. The disciple's death was so tragic that the blood rained down on the runes on the platform. No one expected Ko Tianxin's unintentional action to open the door to the secrets hidden in this place. Buzz! When the last drop of blood was absorbed by the runes, an extremely powerful aura suddenly spread out from the stone platform. The mysterious patterns lit up in an instant, bursting forth with a resplendent brilliance. The colorful runes intertwined with each other like the essence energy extracted from the rainbow after the rain. The runes were gorgeous like the ancient runes. An ancient and desolate aura surged out like a spring. Boom! Then, the sky above the valley rumbled with thunder and lightning. Rocks were piled up in the valley while huge mountains towered outside. The towering mountains around the valley emitted a majestic aura. Strong winds stirred and the sea of clouds stirred. Rays of strange white light flickered between heaven and earth. In an instant, the stone platform erupted with a dazzling, colorful light like the sun. The mighty and vigorous chi wave was like a torrent that had broken through a dam, sweeping in all directions. The expressions of the Shura sect and Illusory Rain sect changed. Retreat! Retreat! Without any hesitation, more than 30 figures from both sides immediately retreated to the back. The people from Moon Execution City, Thousand Cranes sect, and Heavenly Sword Pavilion were also forced back by the aura that originated from the stone platform. Fist Master Tsang Yuanjia, Heavenly Sword Pavilion's young Master Mu Feng, Ko Tianxin, Planet Sherwin, Tu Yi, and the ordinary-looking young man from the Illusory Rain sect looked at each other in shock. However, before everyone could figure out what was happening, something even more shocking happened. The huge rocks piled up in the valley released a bright brilliance. The strange patterns on the rocks flickered like lightning. Buzz! Buzz! Under many pairs of surprised gazes, all the stones rose into the air, left the ground, and floated in the air. The huge rocks that filled the sky were like meteorites in the vast starry sky. They floated in the sky above the valley and were shrouded in bright silver light patterns. What's going on? What the hell is going on? Yitai from Moon Execution City frowned and shouted in a deep voice. Buzz! Boom! Just as he finished speaking, a few huge rocks on one side suddenly flew across the sky and swept up a powerful aura toward the stone platform in the center. It was as if hundreds of people responded to a single call. The huge rocks in other directions seemed to be attracted by a magnetic force. One by one, they flew to the top of the stone platform and gathered together. The people from the various teams were shocked. The huge rocks that floated around the crowd roared and gathered on the stone platform. The sky was dark, and the clouds were swept away by the wind. The turbulent airflow set off a piercingly cold whirlpool. The huge traction caused the area within a radius of dozens of miles to fall into chaos. The rocks had edges and corners and were of different shapes. Some were square, some were round, and some were triangular. The rocks were arranged in an orderly manner, and the gaps between the edges were very tight. On Sherwin Planet, Ko Tianxin and Yitai looked at each other, and the former blurted out subconsciously. Is it building a building on its own? Ko Tianxin narrowed his eyes and did not answer. Instead, he looked at the people from Moon Execution City, Shura's sect, Illusory Rain sect, and Heavenly Sword Pavilion. What was the purpose of these people's visit? Rumble. The collision of the huge rocks sounded like a stampede of 10,000 horses and waves. Chu Hen and Luo Mengshang, who were hiding in the dark, looked cautious. After all the unique stones were piled together, an enormous stone tablet with a majestic aura that was like a mountain appeared in everyone's line of sight. Wow! Everyone's pupils shrank, and their faces were filled with deep shock. It was a stone monument that was more than 1,000 feet tall. It was narrow at the top and wide at the bottom. It was grand and majestic, like a stone pillar that reached the heavens. The stone monument stood steadily on the stone platform in the center. If everyone present had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed that the strange rocks that were piled up all over the place could form such a majestic stone monument in just a few blinks of an eye. The combination of the rocks was just right. It could be said to be perfect. There was not a single protruding edge or edge. Soon after, the stone platform below burst into a brilliant rainbow light again. Beams of light that looked like colorful vines intertwined with each other and extended up the stone monument's wall. Waves of beautiful and resplendent light enveloped the top and bottom of the stone tablet, and within the light, mysterious runes were rapidly lighting up. In the blink of an eye, the majestic stone monument's wall was covered with inscriptions. The inscriptions were strange and mysterious, and they similarly emanated an extremely obscure and restless aura. It's the talisman inscriptions. I found it. Shifeng Zi really did come here all those years ago. An excited voice resounded from the group from Moon Execution City, and it was the young woman called Little One who spoke. What? Talisman inscriptions? Shifeng Zi? The members of the Thousand Cranes sect were slightly astounded. Wasn't Shifeng Zi the #1 talisman master that roamed through the 100 Kingdoms all those years ago? The square talisman inscriptions he created in the past could be said to have caused a stir. Ko Tianxin and Sherwin Xing looked at each other and immediately understood the purpose of these people's visit.